Our main character's life is a complete disaster. If he fails this time, he's done for, literally dead. His skills are rock bottom, the competition's insane, and everyone's miles ahead of him. But there's one thing they don't know: he has a secret ability that maxes out a new skill every single day. Sounds overpowered, right? Not really, because all those skills are complete trash. Yet somehow, he's still aiming to become the world's most famous pop star. This time, our trash wakes up in a sketchy motel room feeling disoriented. Next thing he knows, he's about to piss himself. The ceiling looks all kinds of funky. This definitely isn't his room. Maybe he's somehow swapped bodies or something. Totally confused, he checks out his own beat-up face in the mirror. Instead of brushing it off, panic hits him hard. He freaks out over his own reflection, stumbles back, and ends up hitting himself while sweating buckets trying to figure out what's going on. He can't even recognize his own face. He flops down on the bed and finally manages to chill a bit. For someone who's been grinding for a civil service exam, stress should be nothing new. That loser was jobless even in his past life. He tries to stay calm and figure things out. There's an empty pill bottle and a suicide note next to it. The original owner of this body ended things. He finds a wallet, and inside is an ID with the name Park Moondae on it. He also realizes he looks younger. He's 23, but he appears like a high school kid. He seems a bit shy and timid, but he knows he can't do anything to help the original owner, so he decides to look for his own body first. If they switch bodies, his original self should have woken up by now. He remembers passing out after a night of drinking and figures his body must still be where he left it. Just when he thinks being hungover in this summer heat feels like torture, he notices it's snowing outside. Confused, he remembers it was July when he got wasted and fell asleep. It's hard for him to grasp why it's winter outside. He starts to wonder if this whole thing is more than just a body swap. Maybe he's not even alive anymore. Next thing he knows, some girl drops off a ham and cheese ramen for him. That's when it hits him. He's chowing down on ramen at an internet cafe next to a motel. It doesn't take long for him to chill out. Even though the switch in seasons is a shock, it's wild to think that he's actually 3 years back in time. Around now, he was just getting serious about studying, but in this reality, his original self is nowhere to be found. No social media accounts, no university profiles, and even his old phone doesn't exist. So yeah, this isn't just some typical body swap. Honestly, he doesn't have many regrets about his old life since he lost his parents in a car accident when he was in middle school. Plus, he ditched his friends to go after his civil service job, so being forgotten wouldn't be surprising. He's still trying to figure out what to do next. He starts checking out the idol trends from this time and thinks it's a bit cliche, like one of those fantasy stories where someone suddenly swaps bodies and ends up in the past. He wonders if he's in some alternate dimension that's kinda like his original timeline. Maybe this is what people mean by shounen novels. If he's onto something, he wants to check out the status window, but then some idiot nearby is trash-talking his teammates, calling them useless for opening a status window instead of fighting, and it's just plain embarrassing. He starts banging his head, feeling like an idiot for thinking something cool would show up. But then out of nowhere, he spots something that grabs his attention. That annoying Discord mod decides he's gonna be a hero and carry his teammates, but he gets totally freaked out when our guy yells like a little kid in a panic. He's sweating buckets from what he sees. There's actually a legit pop-up window right in front of him. Instead of the usual strength or agility stats though, he's staring at numbers for singing, dancing, and looks. It's way off from what he expected. Then it hits him. It must be idol stats. Looks like it's telling him he needs to become one. Out of the blue, an emergency quest pops up. He's faced with a wild mission: debut or die. If he doesn't manage to debut as an idol in time, he's a goner. He can't wrap his head around it. He freezes while some random girl asks if he's good, but then he bolts outside. There's no way he wants to face a lame death, just because he can't make it as an idol. In his past life, idols were wild and fans were totally obsessed with them. He used to snap pics of these girls just as part of the grind to make some cash. While in college, he earned his keep taking photos of idols for a fan site, diving into all the craziness that came with it. He was quick with his work and got a lot of love from his clients, but dealing with the chaotic crowds really wore him out. At one point, while snapping away, he found himself getting super into it. Now, he's pouring all of his effort into practicing his singing. He's kinda lost about what he's doing though. Glancing at the status window, he wonders if this is even important in action genres. It's like a stats sheet showing both his and his opponent's skills. His level actually goes up when he sings. Checking out what he needs to do, he starts sweating because it looks like there's a ton on his plate. With no clear directions, he's gotta start from scratch. But he can use the points he's earned, so he opens up the status window and decides to throw a point into his vocals. It bumps up from a C to a C positive, so he gets back to practicing his singing. After picking a song, he jumps right in and starts singing and notices his voice sounds way cleaner than before. He also racks up 80 points, and that really hits him. This whole situation is for real, not some kind of joke. He still can't figure out what's going on, but he definitely doesn't want to kick the bucket. With 365 days left, he knows it's time to make his debut. Around this time, there's this idol survival show blowing up called Idol INC, gathering a ton of participants. Season 2 ended up being a complete disaster, and some girls are left wondering if the network actually made any cash off it. Meanwhile, he's getting groomed at a salon. The hairstylist keeps the sides pretty long. When he sees his new look, he realizes this style finally suits him. His gloomy eyes seem to brighten up too, thanks to actually eating and sleeping well. He feels a bit bad for spending Moonday's money right now, though. He figures he'll just pay it back with a donation or something. It's hard to believe, but the original owner was so bummed out that he chose to end his life on his birthday. He steps outside, hoping the original owner found peace. There's a lot on his plate. Meanwhile, at TNT headquarters, some guy is struggling to find talent and staff, totally stumped about what to do next. One of the minions chimes in, saying it's all because Season 2 flopped, and the guy asks if he's reached out to local classes and businesses. After making some calls and packing, they've got a few contestants lined up, barely scraping by. That guy wonders if they should extend the recruitment period and turns to Soren for advice, but she bolts right after lunch, disappearing on him again. On the flip side, while Soren is wandering around, she hears someone singing that catches her ear. Other folks are enjoying it too, so she stops to listen until the guy finishes the song. She then approaches the singer, who turns out to be Moonday, and asks if they can chat for a minute. Meanwhile, he's curious about who she is, but she reassures him she's not a weirdo. She hands him her business card and says she thought his singing was pretty impressive. When she asks his name, that's when he realizes she took the bait. Not too long ago, there was this quirky survival show that stood out from the bunch by treating its contestants like stocks, watching them rise, fall, or crash. After a successful first season, the producers got a bit too confident and jumped into a second season without much thought, which led to a total flop and the show getting canceled. A few months later, the same producer popped back up, claiming it was a fresh start, but it was really just the third season of that same show. Surprisingly, it ended up being a huge hit and turned into a big deal. For Moonday, who knows what's coming next and keeps an eye on Idol Incorporated while doing his data brokering job, this revival is a perfect chance to make his debut. The only problem? The application period closed a week ago. Sitting quietly, he fiddles with a business card of a woman whose confident grin still gets to him. His hunch about Idol Incorporated scouting new talent in karaoke bars ends up being spot on. Word on the street is that whenever they're short on trainees, the producers just stroll around the booths looking for anyone with that little spark of talent. He figured it'd take longer, but here they are, way faster and bolder than he thought. After countless late nights working on his vocals and leveling up to a solid B, he's feeling ready. He takes the card with a chill look, hiding how hyped he is. The woman seems convinced he's got that special mix of charm and stage presence. She's even pushing him to come to a nearby broadcasting station to film some test clips. He's a little unsure, but she keeps insisting, calling it a small adventure. He keeps his face neutral while he weighs his options. After a moment, he decides there's no downside to taking a shot at it. The second he agrees, his system lights up. His stats show level 2, vocals at B-, visuals at C, and he's got no limits for ability status. A little alert pops up, debut or die. Later that night, he flops down on his sofa, thinking the day was pretty productive, even if the test shoot felt kind of meh. But it keeps popping back into his mind, especially the producer's reaction when he said he has no parents. She probably thinks he's crafting a dramatic backstory to get sympathy. To her, he's just a handy replacement for someone else, but he doesn't care. He just needs to get his name on that list. The tough part hits when he finds out they'll officially bring him on in 10 days and he's snagged the last spot. 10 days to prep for a broadcast would crush a regular person, and even he's feeling the heat. But there's no choice. As he leans back, sipping his drink and staring at the ceiling, he knows he has to push even harder. If survival's the name of the game, there's no room for doubt. 10 days later, in T1's studio, the filming kicks off. The first challenge is a solo evaluation where Idol Incorporated gives each trainee a temporary rank. Sitting among a bunch of contestants, he tries to calm himself, knowing that first impressions are everything. Most of the 77 participants look painfully young, and for the first time, he really feels the weight of his age. A kid walks up and asks if he's here alone. He looks up and realizes the kid barely looks like he's out of middle school, so he nods. The kid's excitement is kind of surprising when he says he's also alone. He asks how old he is, and he says he's 20, but he thinks to himself that he's actually 9 years older. When the kid keeps asking about his agency, he admits he doesn't have one. The kid's enthusiasm drops, and he makes an excuse to leave. Watching him go, he sighs, seeing the kid lose interest as soon as he finds out there's no agency behind him. This place can be harsh. The tension starts to build up until a staff member shows up, calling everyone to line up. They all stand and move forward in order. He follows, not sure if it's finally his turn. One by one, contestants step up for their evaluation, all getting ranked. Over to the side, the producer watches with a furrowed brow. The talent pool looks pretty thin. Most kids are just average, honestly. She knows that turning someone who's not really skilled into a star is almost impossible. No amount of clever editing or storytelling can replace raw talent that keeps viewers hooked. With a sigh, she calls in the next group, glancing at the boy walking through the door. She thinks he's just another average contestant. After all, she scouted him barely 10 days ago. She half wonders if he'll be terrible, but hopes his performance might at least get people talking about the show. When he steps up and introduces himself, he just gives his name and says he's in their care. The producer pauses, waiting for him to elaborate. He stands there quietly, making things awkward. His bluntness sets off a flurry of comments online. People can't decide if he's confident, clueless, or just plain weird. She flits through his application, practically empty, and signals him to start. But as soon as he lifts the microphone and starts singing, the vibe changes completely. Every producer at the panel freezes, caught off guard by the strength in his voice. His tone is clean, his control is sharp, and even the audience leans in intrigued. One producer stares in shock, recognizing the song as one that's tricky with an irregular beat and a complex melody. But he doesn't stumble, hitting every change perfectly. The woman who scouted him is the most shocked of all. She remembers his karaoke performance being nowhere near this level. If he had sung like this before, she would have rushed him straight into an interview. Now, as she watches him deliver a song that's both confusing and amazing, she can't wrap her head around it. It feels unreal, like he's transformed into someone completely different. The performance isn't just luck, it's the result of constant preparation. For days, he's been practicing nonstop, working on his voice until it's just right. He puts in every bit of effort to strengthen his vocals, knowing that talent is what really grabs people's attention. With so few idols able to take the main vocalist spot, he knows he has to nail it if he wants a shot at debuting. His plan is simple: establish himself through his voice first and then build from there. Aware of his weaknesses, he decides to skip the dance routine, knowing that even a small mistake could blow his chances. But he's also aware that people will be curious about his dancing, so he makes sure to clean up anything that doesn't meet idol standards. Now, as he stands on stage, his performance leaves the room in complete silence. Even the producer looks surprised, unsure why he chose such an unusual song. It's a track that T-Holic used to perform, a group that was huge in their time but has faded away now. Originally a B-side from a solo album by one of its members, the song used to promote the title track and hit second on the charts. Although it's becoming popular again, it still feels like a throwback, a bold choice for this moment. It's not a song most people would pick for an audition. The producer keeps staring at him, shocked that he made such a bold choice without any experience in the industry. She can't believe a rookie would take such a risk. When he wraps up his song, he just thanks the judges, leaving them all impressed. One of the female judges, slightly flustered, compliments him and asks if he realizes how good he is. He downplays it, saying he just practiced hard, and another judge jumps in, claiming he must have some natural talent. The first judge goes on about how refreshing his tone is, how clear his pronunciation is, and how he can sing any style without awkward quirks. Surprised, they ask if he's had any lessons. He says nope. The woman who questioned him looks stunned but moves on, happy that the others are into him. Then a younger judge pipes up, saying she wants to see him dance since his performance had little choreography. He freezes. Dancing is his biggest fear. He recognizes her as a former idol he once helped out by getting her attention through a fan cam, but this situation feels a lot less friendly. He knows he has to go along with it. So he signals a staff member and whispers something that catches the staff off guard, then goes back to his spot. Knowing it's a risky move, he puts down the microphone, shocking the judges, and cues the music. When the dance finishes, the show takes a 30-minute break before getting back on track. Later, he's sitting in the contestants area, ranked 17th, which people call the president's chair. He knows he didn't nail the performance, but he didn't totally bomb it either. He's expecting to drop a few spots, but feels pretty good about the reviews. Next to him, another contestant points at him with a grin, saying he's a good singer. He just sits quietly, knowing that he's only getting started. He glances at the guy beside him, realizing they're probably around the same age as the original owner of this body. He thanks him for the compliment, but the guy just keeps grinning and says he's nothing compared to his dance, which makes him feel a bit down. The boy laughs, mentioning that he never thought he'd get to hear that song live since it's been around for 10 years and basically got banned during exam season. The memory of his own dance rushes back like a creamy highlight reel. It starts with an awkward star pose and then turns into an overly peppy routine that makes him look like a confused backup dancer from a girl group. The judges were practically red from laughing, with one nearly spilling his drink from how hard he was crying. Looking back, he wonders if it was all pointless. Right now, his dance skills rank about as high as a gym class routine. Still, he tells himself he gave it his best shot, and the boy compliments him again, calling him talented and generous. The kid introduces himself as Lee Sejin, saying they'll probably meet up often and hoping they get along. He freezes at the name. He recognizes it. When he was studying for the civil service exam, he remembers seeing Lee Sejin on the 9 o'clock news, and not for anything good. Deciding to keep his distance, he stays quiet. After the 30-minute break, the next contestant steps up to the stage and instantly grabs everyone's attention. Even the judges look impressed. This guy's looks could probably end careers. He's stunned, thinking that with a face like that, his market value must be through the roof. But when he sees the name tag that reads Sion, he frowns. No one by that name ever made it to the finals. He sighs, figuring that someone who can't debut with that level of good looks must seriously lack talent. A quick look at Seon's stats confirms it. Everything besides looks is stuck in the D and F zone. As Seon walks to the center looking stiff and nervous, his system window flickers, showing Seon's stats more clearly. The layout is fancier than expected, and he realizes that, on paper, this dude could totally end up in the top 10. But then he notices letters in parentheses beside the stats, probably skill caps, and wonders if that means Seon has untapped potential. If that's the case, the guy's future could be super bright. Yet the real shock hits when he sees Seon's biggest issue: serious lack of self-confidence. With a face that flawless, it feels like a cruel cosmic joke. Moondy can't help but feel confused about how someone so good-looking and talented can be so unsure of himself. When the judges ask the new contestant to introduce himself, he stumbles through a shaky hello. Seon Hayeon, only 20, is clearly nervous as he looks at his reflection on the big screen, struggling to share that his thing is dancing. The judges share wordy glances and kindly tell him not to cry. As Moondy watches, he starts to realize that this isn't just nerves. Seon seems to have a speech disorder, and it's obvious he knows it. Then a warning pops up on Seon's status window. His self-esteem is way too low, and all his stats drop by a couple of levels. Moondy is stunned that just feeling low can affect his abilities like that, and wonders how he can even see this window in his mind. Judge Youngrin gently asks if Seon has trouble talking, and he manages to explain with a shaky voice that he had an accident as a kid that made it hard for him to communicate. He nods when she says it must have been tough to make friends since people often get him wrong. The atmosphere in the room gets heavy with sympathy, and Moondy stays chill, keeping a neutral expression, knowing that reacting would only make things feel awkward. When Seon finally performs, his dancing is okay, but it doesn't quite measure up to what his actual talent seems to hint at, landing him at 18th place. The judges kindly encourage him, saying he can do better next time. Moondy claps, feeling a weird mix of feelings about being ranked higher than someone like Seon. As the next contestant walks in, he glances over at Seon sitting next to him, wondering whether he should say something, but he knows Seon probably won't start talking either. Too worn out to care, he just gives him a quick look, making Seon flinch in surprise. Seon bows politely before sitting back, and Moondy turns his attention back to his thoughts, noticing that there are still way too many people waiting for their turn. 3 of the evaluations seem to drag on forever, with over 70 performances blending together until they finally wrapped up. When the results came out, everyone was told to head to their assigned dorms. Moondy ended up in 22nd place, not great, but not a shock either. He figured he'd be pushed back a bit, and with the stiff competition, managing to hold his spot felt like a small win. The judges instructed everyone to get on their assigned rides based on their ranks. The top contestants, those in the first to 10th spots, got to ride in fancy limousines, while those ranked 11th to 25th, including him, had to take the premium buses. Watching the shiny black limos roll out, he couldn't help but feel the clear divide in rankings. The lower-ranked trainees were buzzing with excitement, gathering around the limos. He spotted a few familiar faces up in the top ranks: Chae Yujin with his striking red hair and Kim Rae-bain by his side, both from the same high-profile agency and around his age. Yujin, sitting pretty at first place, exuded that confident vibe of someone who's used to the limelight. Right behind them was Ryu Chung-woo, 2 years older and a former national archery star, who snagged a 9th place spot. Moondy vaguely recalled that Chung-woo had once won a group medal before stepping back to chase his idle dreams. A staff member called for everyone to take their seats, and as the bus engine roared to life, he settled in, quietly calculating his next move. If he wanted a better shot at debuting, sticking close to Seon seemed like the way to go. Still, he couldn't shake off the feeling of it all being a bit ridiculous. At his age, trying to navigate idol politics was just exhausting. When he looks over, he's surprised to see Seon sitting right next to him. He has no idea how that happened, but figures it's not the worst thing. At least it's not Sejin, who never shuts up. Letting out a quiet sigh of relief, he leans back in his seat, happy that Seon won't start chatting, gets ready for some peace and quiet on the ride. It's only a 10-minute walk to the dorms, but the production team insists on taking a longer, scenic route, probably just to get some extra footage for the show. He watches the lower-ranked contestants walking along. They seem way too cheerful, laughing and pretending that they're having a good time for the cameras. To him, it all feels a bit over the top, almost cringy considering how staged it is. When they finally get to the dorms, he's pleasantly surprised to find out that, since he's ranked lower and they're grouped in 5s by placement, he's in a different room from Sejin, who's in 20th place. That alone feels like a small win and the only real perk of being 22nd. As he steps into the room, he sees 5 beds and drops his bag on one, contemplating if he should just claim it. Seon, standing next to him, quietly puts his bag on the top bunk above his. A bit confused, he moves to another spot, only to notice Seon trailing him again, all the way to the group gathering. Now he's starting to feel a bit uneasy. Why is this guy following him like a lost puppy? Maybe he thinks he's safe or just some normal dude? Whatever the reason, he decides not to dwell on it. Seon isn't bothering him yet, so it's cool. Still, he makes a mental note to keep some distance. If they end up together too often, any argument will totally make him look like the bad guy. Out of nowhere, Seon pulls a toffee from his pocket and shyly offers it, asking if he wants some chocolate. He's a bit caught off guard but accepts it, half wondering if this small act of kindness just messed up his chances of keeping space between them. Before long, all the contestants are gathered in the common room and a staff member greets them with a warm welcome, asking how the first evaluation went. He announces that training will kick off now, but first, they're going to reveal the temporary rankings based on the initial round. Those rankings are going to decide the customized classes, and performances will affect the rankings in real time. The room buzzes with murmurs and tension as they call out the first name. Yujin, still holding on to first place, confidently steps forward. Watching from the back, he wonders if this is a good time to check his status window. As he opens it, the familiar blue glow pops up. He's hit level 5. A system message flashes in front of him. Successful performance detected. Most people were impressed. Please select a general ability. He blinks a bit stunned. Whatever this weird system is, it's clearly not done with him yet. Moondy sighed as he stared at the screen, realizing something weird was popping up again. Just when he thought he was getting used to the strange status window, a new feature showed up, making him click on the Choose a General Ability option, feeling both curious and a bit hesitant. Suddenly, a flash of blue light hit his face and a spinning roulette wheel appeared, revealing he had gained an ability called Sleep is for the Dead. At first he was confused, but then he figured out this ability meant he wouldn't feel tired, even without any rest. It slowly began to pique his interest as he realized the system actually rewarded hard work and growth. When he checked his status window, he saw that points added up through achievements and that tidying up his hair had slightly improved his visuals, proving that personal improvement played into his stats. His dance and charisma scores had also gone up after his first performance, which felt like a real confirmation that his progress mirrored actual growth. When the staff called him to the stage, he stepped up to grab his badge and noticed his vocal score was the highest, while his dance score was the lowest. Looking at the other contestants, he spotted a few without badges, often labeled as F rank online. While he thought starting from the bottom could have its perks, he felt for them and knew how discouraging it must be. Then his gaze landed on Lee Sejin, a nervous contestant he recognized from a blockbuster movie 10 years ago. Sejin had faded from the spotlight, and Moondig guessed he was probably here for a second shot rather than a debut. But then a darker thought crossed his mind. There was also a guy named Lee Sejin who had gotten arrested for drug dealing. The name coincidence felt too weird, making him wonder if it was just luck or something deeper. Shaking that thought off, he noticed that taller trainees seemed to have a better shot at debuting, which added to his anxiety. Soon the staff's voice cut through the buzz, announcing that the badge distribution by grades had wrapped up, and that the new Idol theme song for the season was about to be revealed. The title flashed on the big screen. It's Me. As the video played, showing the original performance, the room fell silent in amazement. Moonday recognized it instantly. The song had been such a hit that it played non-stop for months. Even when he was just an engineering student, he memorized the main choreography. Confident that this familiarity would give him an edge, he decided to focus on nailing the dance and memorizing the lyrics. As the demo keeps going, Moonday starts to lose his confidence. The choreography got switched up. The new version has some tricky footwork during the chorus that he can barely keep up with. The smooth, catchy moves he thought he remembered are just a cover. The real challenge is in the complicated steps hiding underneath. Panic spreads among the other contestants as they realize how tough it is, with some saying they might not nail it even if they had a month to practice instead of just 10 days. Many are grumbling that the routine seems like it's meant only for experienced dancers. When night rolls around, Moondy kicks in his ability Sleep is for the Dead, deciding to practice all night without a break. Hours go by as he keeps repeating the choreography, pushing his limits until he starts feeling how heavy his body is. He notices he's put on some weight lately and figures he should start tracking his diet and calorie intake. Just as he gets ready to dive back into practice, dizziness hits him and he collapses on the floor, holding his stomach, feeling super hungry. That's when it clicks for him. The side effect of his ability isn't just tiredness, it's this constant hunger from not letting his body rest. As he catches his breath, a shadow falls over him and a fellow contestant kneels down beside him, offering a piece of toffee. When he looks up, he sees it's Seon, who quietly asks if Moonday wants something to eat. Moonday reaches out with a shaky hand to take the toffee, thanking Seon for the sweet gesture. Seon smiles and says he has more if Moonday wants another. While unwrapping the chocolate, Moonday glances at Seon and suddenly asks how old he is. The question catches Seon off guard and he hesitates before asking what Moonday means. Moonday explains that he's 20 and just wants to know Seon's age too. When Steven says he's the same age, Moonday nods and suggests they should probably talk casually from now on since they're peers. But then he quickly changes his mind, thinking it might be better to just keep it informal since they'll be seeing each other a lot. Still, the moment feels a bit awkward. Chatting so easily with someone his age reminds him that he's really young, even if it feels a bit strange to acknowledge. The next day, things in the practice room go from friendly to hectic as the contestants dive into some serious training under the watchful eye of their instructor. He's constantly shouting for them to keep repeating the choreography, and you can tell his patience is wearing thin every time someone messes up. When Moondae makes a big slip, the instructor points him out and tells him to perform solo. As Moondae starts dancing, the instructor lets out a big sigh, clearly not impressed. He tells Moondae straight up that if he keeps dancing like that, he won't stand a chance in the next evaluation and needs to pull it together. Moondae, feeling embarrassed, bows his head and says sorry. The instructor mutters, still frowning, that maybe he was too easy on Moondae with his first grade. Meanwhile, in another room, the judges get settled for the upcoming evaluations. The vibe changes completely when Youngrin walks in looking sharp in a well-fitted suit that grabs everyone's attention. With her confident walk and calm expression, she seems more like a company exec than a performer. One of the judges, half-joking, asks if she's going for an interviewer vibe today. She just smiles and says she is, since it's an important day. 10 minutes later, all the contestants are sitting quietly in the waiting room, trying to stay calm as the staff tells them to not move. One of the staff members confirms over the walkie-talkie that everyone is in, and that the assignment will start soon. Seon's heart is racing, and he's breathing kind of unevenly as the tension in the room builds. Across from him, Moondae is staring at the ceiling, or at least where the ceiling should be, wondering why this place looks more like a temporary set than an actual studio. Suddenly, the staff makes an announcement. It's time for the ranking evaluation to kick off. A loud mechanical sound fills the air as the walls start to rise, revealing the judges' panel. Gasps fill the room as a legendary senior trainer pops up next to the judges, totally surprising everyone. With a calm smile, he greets them and asks if they're shocked by the setup. The staff, sounding upbeat, explains that this season is shaking things up with a new twist, the open group evaluation. From now on, contestants singing the same song will be both the audience and judges for each other. The trainees exchange wide-eyed looks. Last season was all about individual evaluations, so this is a complete game changer. The staff continues, saying that the final rankings will totally depend on this open evaluation format, and they'll go in reverse order, starting with the lowest-ranked contestant. The room gets tense as the first name called is Sung-koo. His eyes go big with panic. He clearly wasn't ready to go first. Before anyone can react, the staff announces that the evaluation has officially begun, and all eyes snap to him as he freezes. Moondae watches silently, realizing that the production team is using Sung-koo as a sort of test subject, like a psychological tactic to rattle everyone else. Starting with the lowest rank in front of the group is a harsh but smart move to shake their confidence. Sung-koo stutters an apology and says he can't remember the choreography. Moondae sees his composure slipping, and while he keeps a straight face, he gets what's going down. The producers are cranking up the tension, creating drama from stress and failure, a brutal but clever way to make the show more engaging. Next up is Kim Yumdo, ranked 76, but his performance is pretty much the same, tense, shaky, and forgettable. Moondae is still watching quietly, seeing that the show is setting up a narrative, waiting for a standout trainee to break through the sea of forgettable acts and become the star of the season. When Lee Sejin steps up, you can see he's putting in a lot of effort despite being worn out. His stage presence isn't flawless, but he gets through the full routine and lyrics without messing up. The judges notice that even though he's not super polished, his commitment is impressive. Moondae agrees. After a bunch of lackluster performances, Sejin's focus really makes him shine. But when Sejin humbly says he'll work harder, Moondae feels like dedication alone might not be what the production crew is after. He quietly adds Sejin to his mental list of contestants to keep an eye on. The next stages kind of blend together, mediocre performances and bored judges just waiting for something exciting. When Steven takes the stage, his singing and dancing are okay, but his lack of confidence really dulls his vibe. Then it's Lily's turn. As he walks to the stage, he already knows the judges want strong vocals and not-so-great dance moves. After just 10 days of training, he's not expecting much, just hoping to refine what he already has. But the second the music starts, he moves like it's second nature. His steps flow nicely, and his footwork is sharp and on point. The judges are left staring in disbelief. Even his trainer, who was about ready to give up on him just 2 days ago, can't hide his shock. Moondae keeps singing effortlessly, his movements steady and natural, and even Seon looks impressed. One of the female judges laughs in delight, saying someone this talented is going to go far, while his trainer just whispers in amazement that such progress shouldn't be possible in only a few days. Just 2 days ago, Moondae struggled with a basic turn, and now he's dancing like a totally different person. What no one realizes is that Moondae used his save evolution points to boost his dance stat from D to C, a 3-level jump that transformed his performance. His moves might not be perfect, but the growth is clear, and it's enough to see him through the first elimination round. The trainer watches Lily perform, genuinely blown away by the clarity of his high notes and how well he moves now. After 10 grueling days of tough corrections and failed attempts, watching him perform so confidently feels surreal. He can't figure this trainee out. Someone who struggled so much is now nailing both strong vocals and smooth dance moves with ease. The improvement is incredible, and even the trainer has to admit it's impressive. As the music fades, Moondae bends slightly, out of breath but still managing a polite smile as he thanks the judges for their feedback. Just then, his trainer calls out to him, looking serious but with a proud grin. With a tone that's both firm and warm, he tells him he did a great job. For a moment, Mundi just stands there, surprised by the unexpected compliment. Then a smile creeps onto his face as he realizes his story arc has reached its perfect ending for this stage. The brown-haired judge looks pretty impressed, and just by her expression, Mundi knows his plan worked. She tells him she's proud of how much he's grown and that she really enjoys watching him perform, adding that there's nothing to critique this time. Another judge chimes in, saying his hard work really shows and that he must have practiced like crazy to get to this level. Mundi breathes a sigh of relief, realizing he's dodged elimination for now. His trainer, still a bit confused, asks what he did in the last 2 days to improve so much when dancing used to be a struggle for him. Prepared for the question, Mundi coolly says he got some help from a friend. When the trainer asks who it was, he casually brings up Seon's name, making San sit up straight in surprise among the other contestants. It's the perfect distraction, though Mundi feels a touch guilty since Seon really did help him with practice. He mentions that his friend was patient and super supportive, knowing it sounds heartfelt and innocent enough to explain his sudden improvement. Yumgren also gives him some warm praise, telling him to relax a bit during performances, and he bows respectfully in thanks. As his turn wraps up and the next contestant gets ready, he can't help but smile. His plan worked, he seems sincere, and the feedback is all positive. When the staff hands out boxes for rank announcements, he opens his to find the letter C for dance staring back at him. Even with his progress, his rank hasn't changed. Before he can even process it, Seon rushes over, grinning and saying he got platinum, and thanks Mundi for his help. Lee Sejin even comes over to congratulate Seon, acting all buddy-buddy, which leaves Mundi confused since they barely said more than hi to each other until now. He doesn't even look at Seon and Lee Sejin chatting next to him, still trying to figure out how they suddenly became so comfortable with each other. Lee Sejin laughs, teasing that Mundi must be too moved to speak, but honestly he just feels conflicted. He can't wrap his head around how Seon managed to score platinum, but thinking back on the hectic evaluation, it starts to make sense. A lot of lower-ranked contestants lost their cool under pressure, and compared to them, Seon's performance really did shine. Pinning the badge to his chest, Mundi figures that the extra practice from the sleep is for the dead sessions must have helped too. Still, part of him wishes he'd gotten gold instead since he's the only platinum trainee ranked in the 20s. That's going to make him stand out more and attract unwanted attention, which makes him uneasy. He forces himself to stay calm and reminds himself to keep a positive outlook. As long as he debuts within a year and avoids any bad vibes, everything will be just fine. From now on, he decides to play it safe and avoid giving anyone a chance to criticize him. He's set on climbing the ranks quickly, so he's focusing all his energy on singing and dancing while steering clear of any unnecessary attention for the time being. Soon enough, rehearsal for It's Me kicks off, and a guy with glasses steps on stage, introducing himself as the main PD of the show. He spills the details about recording the theme song and lays out the schedule. First a dry rehearsal, then a costume change, followed by a camera rehearsal. The Platinum group gets an extra solo camera run since their clips will be shown separately, and the full performance is set to premiere next Friday on Music Night, marking their public debut. Excited cheers fill the room. Standing in the crowd, Mundi notices that the best dancers are up front while he's stuck a bit behind the gold-ranked trainees. Sejin leans over and asks if he feels even a little disappointed. Mundi keeps his cool and says he's not. Watching Sejin, who landed in silver, he thinks the guy might end up having a solid growth story leading to a debut. Nearby, a chatty contestant jokes that he'd be crushed if he were in Lily's position, and Mundi casually agrees, saying it makes sense for him. The guy teases Mundi about wanting more camera time, but he brushes it off, claiming it's just because he's good at dancing. The guy grins and offers to help him stretch, saying he's great at neck massages, but Mundi politely declines with a small smile. Suddenly, Yujin approaches Lily, asking out of nowhere if he can't dance. Mundi gets frozen in surprise, caught off guard by this sudden question, especially with the mix on and cameras rolling. Yujin's tone isn't aggressive, but the timing confuses him. As he looks closer at clicks, he knows that face. Yujin is the dude who ranked first during the opening evaluations and stayed on top throughout the whole show, eventually winning the season. Realizing how powerful Yujin is and how tight he probably is with the production team, Mundi figures it's best to stay on his good side. Keeping it cool, he asks if Yujin missed his earlier performance. Yujin calmly replies that he didn't because he was too busy prepping for his own stage. Mundi smiles politely and tells him to judge better next time, and Yujin nods in agreement. Sejin leans in and whispers that Yujin's way of talking sounds unique, probably because he's from overseas, and Mundi quietly agrees. Right then, the staff announces that rehearsals are starting and the vibe shifts instantly. Mundi checks the time and sees it's already 6 p.m. with the actual recording starting at 4 o'clock. He sighs internally, realizing this is the beginning of the inevitable struggle. Meanwhile, online buzz is going crazy. Their group performance is blowing up on the trending charts and fans are flooding the comment sections with excitement. In the studio, Yumgren is proudly watching the screen but suddenly gets serious, addressing the audience. She reminds them about how the last season was abruptly cancelled, her tone turning sharp yet emotional. Then, with passionate conviction, she declares they owe the viewers an apology for that failure and promises to make things right this time. The audience is left stunned, confused about her sudden intensity and what she really means or what's about to happen next. Next, he's in this uniform and looks pretty confused when someone asks if he digs it. He actually does, since it mixes a student uniform with a suit, plus they can style it in different ways. Some minions jump in all casual, saying they're into it too, looking super pumped in their outfits like they're gearing up for something big. They even ask the crowd what they think of their outfits, but honestly, he feels totally squished and can't stand that they all look like they belong to the same all-guy school because of their matching clothes. He's actually just asleep and everything that happened was just a dream. He's feeling really dizzy. After their first recording, they get a week off, but he ends up being stuck in bed for 4 days because he's sick. Then there's a cut to a show host who's super pumped, asking the audience how they felt about Solwoo's performance. Everyone's hyped and raving about their fresh stage presence. He catches all of this while trying to exercise. He never realized he passed out right after the recording wrapped up, so now he's determined to handle this busy schedule better. He knows he has to build up his endurance. He grabs his phone to check something and sees that it's about to happen. And then he spots a renewal offer. He scrolls through the chat where everyone's talking about stocks and lets out a sigh of relief. It's nice to see that people are still engaged and chatting about it. He can't help but wonder if the folks trash-talking it now will actually own any stock by mid-season. Knowing from Season 3 that things turn out well, he can feel the excitement bubbling up again. When Idol Incorporated pops up on TV, they start talking about their shareholders and even call them out directly. He starts to wonder if they'll actually be serious this time considering how harshly they were critiqued before. The head of Idol Incorporated genuinely apologizes, saying that to avoid messing up again, the audience now has full say. They can decide everything from who's in the group to how many members there are and even how they combine them. Shareholders can even kick out the members they don't like. He feels a bit lost because now the whole future of the company depends on the shareholders. It's hard to believe this is actually happening. This is how Idol Incorporated is renewing and getting back in the game. Later that night, as he's about to crash, he stays up to check out the reactions to the first performance. He checks out this news article saying Idol Incorporated. He glances at one of the contestants and kicks himself for not focusing more on his looks first. He knows that better visuals mean more media buzz, and since he just has average looks, he feels like he's got no shot. People are going wild over some contestants, and while it seems like everyone's got their opinions, the community forums are actually pretty critical of the show. It's kind of wild to see someone already put together a ranking chart. He scrolls through and notices a post about the Platinum ranking force. He sees familiar names like Kim and Changwoo. Then he spots his name at 6th place. Even though he wasn't on camera much, people are still calling him cute.
Some are questioning how he even made it to Platinum, and others say he's not exactly super handsome. It's a weird feeling for him. He's never really experienced anyone spending time and money just because they like someone. He figures it's probably because he never took care of himself in his past life, let alone invest in anything. He's just sitting there, feeling a bit weird about all the attention he's getting. Then he starts to zone out, thinking about how he can step up his game next time. He decides to dish out his stats first, but then gets thrown off when a status window pops up, saying he's gained fame after impressing 1,000 people. Now he has to choose a general ability, and he can't believe there are rewards for this stuff too. He's not expecting much, but he's crossing his fingers for something that has to do with looks or charm. When the roulette finally stops, he ends up winning a silver rank hero ability. He feels pretty good, thinking it's tied to his looks. It's a C rank ability that makes his words grab the audience's attention, and it's passive, so it'll just be there. He can't help but wonder why today feels so exciting. Then someone announces that Idol Inc. is back and asks if the contestants had a good rest last week and what they thought about their first performance on air. Lee Sejin looks surprised to see him.
For the first round of Idol ANC, the guy announces to all contestants to come out and pick a ball from the box. On the other side, Sejin just can't shake off what he is seeing, that our guy has actually got a really amazing glow up. He keeps blinking for a bit, kind of wondering if his eyes are playing tricks on him or something. He starts to think maybe it's because it's been a week since they last saw each other, and you know, time sometimes changes how a person looks. Our guy looks very different now, almost like there's a new aura around him. Sejin thinks his face is literally shining, and it kind of feels like he has gotten a bit more handsome or maybe just more confident. But then he notices something weird. He spots An Hyeon standing behind him and wonders for a second if that's the reason. Then he ends up convincing himself that it's probably just because An Hyeon is handsome. Meanwhile, he stays totally confused and keeps stealing glances as if trying to make sense of what's happening. Next up, it's finally time for our guy to choose his ball. Sejin keeps pressing against him and nudging him again and again, and that kind of irritates him a lot. He rolls his eyes a bit, thinking how Sejin always acts like that. He also realizes that Sejin is actually quite sharp, which somehow makes it both funny and annoying at the same time. Our guy thinks that Sejin was partially right about everything, and he ends up getting number 12, which feels quite good honestly. Last night, when he got that ability, he was definitely taken aback. He thinks it's not a bad skill at all, and once it's activated, it will totally work great on stage. He even earns a point from today's broadcast, which adds a bit to his confidence. So he puts that into the visual since he thinks it's really time to climb over the walls and start ranking up properly. All the contestants now have their balls, and in front of them are monitors showing the names of several K-pop agencies. It looks kind of serious, like a moment before some huge reveal. Soon they will stand in front of the monitor that matches the number on their ball. There can only be 14 people at most for one agency, and if that limit gets exceeded, the higher-ranked contestants are allowed to push out lower-ranked ones to get into the team. It's a bit cruel, kind of like a survival game. As expected, our guy has to quickly cut Sejin off before he gets in the way. Meanwhile, Sejin, of course, keeps acting clingy and asks if he can't push him out, but our guy refuses with no hesitation at all. Sejin, noticing that he's at number 12, asks which agency he's planning to go for. He wonders if he'll pick one known for strong vocals or one with a lot of hit songs. But our guy decides that he'll choose based on the team members instead. He thinks all the agencies here are already super famous and have a ton of hit songs anyway, but what really matters are the people he'll be working with. That kind of surprises Sejin because it's not something he expected. Our guy knows that since he's one of the first to pick, he won't have many to compare with. So far, no one from the debut group has chosen. When it's finally his turn, he steps forward confidently, picks the team with the most high-ranked contestants, which turns out to be Lady. Two guys get really hyped up when they see him arriving. They think their main vocal is finally coming, so they instantly jump up excitedly to greet him. One is 17 years old, super young and full of energy, while the other is 23, a bit older but still sharp and focused. Both are members, and that makes our guy think they probably have dance positions, so their roles won't overlap much. He feels pretty positive about it and tells himself that at least they won't end up as victims of evil editing this time, which honestly feels like a relief. But then he thinks the real problem starts right after that. It's when Sejin also joins in out of nowhere, completely surprising him again. The other members, who were just excited a second ago, suddenly freeze as some weird tension fills the air. After Sejin, even more interesting guys start joining the team. Number 33, An Hyun, comes in with his gold badge and striking visuals that almost steal the spotlight. Then number 59, Chungwoo, the archery guy, joins too. He's full of energy and genuinely pumped to get along with everyone. He's the only other party number rank aside from our guy. Our guy thinks that the higher the rank, the better the synergy will be, and if they all end up working well together, then great. Everyone is trying to get along, even An Hyun, but our guy can't help feeling kind of awkward about everything happening so fast. As the spots start filling up, the lower-ranked contestants begin getting pushed out one after another. Even the silver ranks are getting replaced, which is kind of expected in this intense setup. Some dude looks at our guy with this mix of envy and frustration, thinking if only he had gotten a slightly better rank during the re-evaluation. He blames it all on that jerk Moonde, who also stares right back at him with that same competitive glare. Our guy suddenly feels someone staring at him and starts wondering what that was about. The kid turns out to be one Gil. At first, our guy thought he was a middle schooler because of his looks, but it turns out he's actually in high school. He's just like him and also does vocals, which makes the whole thing kind of funny. 1 week before the rank evaluations, the one shining on stage was one Gil. Right up until our guy showed up, the ace of the quarter class. One Gil feels totally frustrated that he now has to reach Moondae's level. On the day of the evaluation, he walks off stage with heavy steps and ends up being demoted to silver. Then suddenly, Sejin jumps in again, pushing one Gil aside while awkwardly apologizing. He also accidentally shoves some bronze medal dude down in the process. Young tries to greet our guy in the middle of this chaos, but our guy is just too irritated, wondering why Sejin has to be here again. Sejin keeps saying that someone gave him advice that what really matters is the team, not the agency, while our guy is just totally pissed off inside. Now, all the contestants who have chosen their agencies are told to look at the monitors that previously showed the agency names. Something changes on the screen, and the first person to choose their group has to press a button. Our guy tries to figure out what's going on, completely confused yet curious. When the shuffle button gets pressed, the teams suddenly split into A and B. And surprisingly, they now have to do one-on-one matches against each other. Our guy can't believe it. He just stands there, trying to process that the teams were actually randomized like this, feeling both nervous and kind of excited at the same time. 2 of the minions get way too excited over the fact that they end up on the same team. They are also super hyped knowing that Moondae is with them, which basically means they've got a main vocal. That alone makes them feel like their team already hit the jackpot. Meanwhile, our guy is still standing there, trying to wrap his head around everything, kind of dazed but also trying to pull himself together. He keeps thinking that since he's number 12, he has to be careful and make sure his teammates take priority. The 2 chords are standing next to him, and he takes a slow look around at his entire team. Sejin suddenly jumps in, mentioning that their team looks pretty good, and honestly, everyone seems to agree. Monty can't believe that Sejin somehow landed number 62, which just feels kind of insane to him. All of the dudes are hyped about their lineup, acting like this is the dream team. Meanwhile, on the other side, An Haeun stands quietly, looking calm and collected with his number 33 badge. Our guy slowly walks over to him, and the moment he does, he finally gets a bit of peace. It's quiet there, and it kind of feels relaxing. On the opposite team, Chung-gu is already holding a meeting, talking to his team like a captain. Then our guy notices that the only number still missing is 37, that's Won Gil. And right across from him is Lee Sejin, number 15. He looks at the pairing and can't believe it. It feels like an easy pass straight to hell. Their teammates are already giving off strange vibes like early signs of chaos, and he just knows deep down that they are screwed. He thinks at this rate they'll be evil edited so bad that they'll become the editor's bait for sure. That's when An Haeun suddenly calls out, offering Kai a water bottle, and then hesitantly mentions that he thinks their team members are actually good. Monty is totally speechless at that, just staring blankly. Meanwhile, An Haeun looks nervous, literally sweating buckets, but he's trying his best to stay positive. This makes our guy think that An Haeun is just the optimistic one, the kind of person who keeps smiling even when the ship's sinking. Next up, the dudes begin introducing themselves. Lee Sejin casually expresses that he really likes this team because he thinks there are a lot of good-looking people around. Everyone laughs a little and someone even compliments him, saying he's got good eyes for noticing that. He responds back that Lee Sejin himself also has good eyes, which just turns the atmosphere even lighter. Lee Sejin, trying to play it cool, says that he feels like they're really going to have a lot of fun together, and for a second, the team kind of believes that vibe. Meanwhile, our guy stays tense inside, wondering if the team will actually be okay. He admits their composition looks solid since most of them are gold ranked, and they got a nice mix of positions. He thinks that as long as they pick the right song, they'll be able to perform decently. But he's still a bit worried about the two silver-ranked guys. He knows if someone ruins the atmosphere, then it's over. They'll all go straight to hell together. He figures at least with Lee Sejin around, the team's mood might stay bright and manageable. Surprisingly, Bai Sejin also ends up on the same team, and Lee Sejin jokes that they should come up with a nickname to tell them apart. That kind of confuses our guy since he thinks it might just make things even more complicated. One of the guys suddenly starts giving everyone random nicknames for fun, and they all find it really funny. The atmosphere gets lighter for a bit, and even our guy starts thinking about it too. But then there's this weird silence that takes over while he's lost in his thoughts, totally confused about what's happening. Suddenly, the host's voice echoes, asking if everyone has familiarized themselves with their teammates, because it's now time to choose the songs. The monitor in front of them changes, and that same guy goes ahead to press the button for a randomized song. Everyone's hoping to land a good one. As the screen starts to shuffle, most of them quietly wish for the Tiger song since it's the most recent one and everyone who joined Lady probably came for that. Some others are hoping for VTIC, and our guy can almost feel their expectations just from their expressions. The shuffle keeps rolling, and after a moment, An Haeun shows up again bringing water bottles for everyone. The team really appreciates him for that, though a few guys still look down, already feeling unlucky. Then someone starts wondering aloud if there's ever been a girl group song in this kind of mission before. Lee Sejin comments that it's his first time seeing it too, and even jokes that maybe it's an error. But then the result pops up. It's Wet, a girl group song. Everyone freezes. They start to realize they came all the way to Lady expecting VTIC, only to end up with this. Haeun looks completely down, muttering to himself, feeling like they're doomed. He can't believe people like them have to pull off a fairy concept. The entire team falls silent, just trying to process it. On the other side, our guy Moondae listens to the song quietly. He knows there's nothing they can do since the song is already locked in. He feels like the directors definitely tricked them this time, setting them up without warning. No one could have guessed they'd end up with Into the New World by Squeaky Sweet. That cute fairy-like concept. Into the New World is actually the debut song of Laddie's girl group, Squeaky Sweet. It is before they became popular through their unhinged, cute concept of pop cones. They have released a flower fairy-themed song trying to express a girl's innocence. But at the current moment, these guys doesn't seem like flower fairies at all. The girl mentions that for the song they must sing pretty and clearly. She goes on to ask why they are like just singing in tune. She mentions there is simply no loveliness or dreaminess. She asks if they are that embarrassed to sing it. Our guy kind of agrees because honestly, she is right. Their team feels lost and kind of struggling at this point. He asks himself what exactly is their end goal for this performance. Then this guy comes up asking who about the choreography for this. Hashin mentions the team, the members who were a bit familiar with the dance. But Sejin mentions they all did it together. Still, none of them catches the eye of the judge, and he mentions it is bland. He even says it feels like some kind of random talent show or something. Their opponent, Team B, was already excited to do Sangung and has already memorized it, and he mentions this is a girl group choreography. So he asks if they should not be picking up their pace. But they're just a bunch of guys around high school, so things are not that easy. Our guy thinks with a troubled heart about how their bodies could even follow that. The judge notices that those guys have some kids who are below average. And our guy thinks that even he barely managed to memorize the choreography, so he thinks it makes sense that the trainers are uninterested. This is when he mentions he goes on to An Hyeon, who is sweating buckets. He notices that he majored in modern dance and asks why his expressiveness is worse than Moondae. Our guy can't believe this because An Hyeon was the one who taught them almost 80% of the choreography. And the trainer even remarks that Moondae is even better at singing. The instructor is fuming at An Hyeon and keeps pushing him, asking if he thinks people will continue to go easy on him when he debuts. He asks him if he wants to hear that he is worse at dancing than the kid who was chosen for singing. The instructor mentions that if he is going to keep at it like this, then he might as well just give up. The instructor tells them to think of another concept. He mentions whether they arrange the song or put an emphasis on the original. He tells them to come back once they have made a decision, and all of the minions comply to do so. Everyone just quietly accepts because they know he is serious. So this starts to make them wonder if they should have a meeting at our guy's place, thinking if they should slowly get started. Sejin mentions that based on the feedback they received, it tells them to start deciding the concept. He asks if everyone is satisfied with their assigned parts. He mentions that Mond is the main vocalist and Sejin is the main dancer. However, Won-gil mentions that the key doesn't really match in well. On this, Sejin asks if the other parts aren't too low. As Won-gil is a vocal, Sejin mentions that there is only Mond's part, but his lines are even higher than the Won-gil's one. Meanwhile, our guy thinks it will be easier if it is way higher. Meanwhile, Won-gil thinks it will be easier if it is way higher too. That small thing catches the attention of our guy. He starts thinking that this is why the group projects are unreliable, because things are completely going his way. And because things are completely going his way, Won-gil is actually trying to mess things up a little. Sejin goes on to ask our guy if he wants to switch with him. That thing surprises Sejin. Won-gil starts to tease up, kind of acting smug, mentioning that he should help him on the parts he is having trouble with. As our guy can't just give away his part like that, he gets irritated because it feels like this isn't the first time this has happened. He mentions it is alright if they switch as he thinks it is better to switch earlier only if he can't do his part. Our guy also decides that he will be taking the Sejin's part in the bridge. On this, Sejin gets surprised out, almost caught off guard. And on the other side, our guy mentions that Sejin said he could not do that part, so he decides he will take it since he can't do it. On this, Sejin gets really worried. And our guy mentions this is what he has been talking about when they were first learning the choreography. On this, Sejin asks if he knows how Squeaky Sweet is normally cheery and energetic. And he asks why don't they try and emphasize that by showing the dashing charm of an innocent yet powerful youth. Hyun also gets the idea, mentioning if it is kind of like that fan cam where he and Sunbae were in the rain. So they can keep a similar concept to Squeaky Sweet in their prime. Sejin also mentions they even have a Moondae who dances to the popcorn theme. Sejin asks if they don't think they will get a positive response on this. Meanwhile, this thing makes our guy think that he prepared for this. Sejin ignored the issue until he received their first round of feedback. So once his teammates become disheartened, they would listen to him without objections. This powerful youth concept is advantageous for the current main dancer, Lee Sejin. So Sejin must have realized that An Hyeon, our dance major, suited the original song's concept better. Our guy doesn't know if this is something innate or if Sejin is being intentionally calculative. At the day of the competition, in front of the T1 studio, the people are lining up to see the performance. There is this girl also in the crowd and she thinks this whole situation sucks. After her train for years drove under the influence, she got angry and came to see the talent show of some guys she doesn't even know the face of. She thinks her whole life is kind of a mess. She's actually here for some pictures to sell them if it makes money. Recently on the internet, 113 has actually become some kind of punching bag for anyone who gets bored. It's like whenever people have nothing to do, they just find something or someone to criticize online. Forums and the internet in general have always been like that anyway. Despite it being just the first performance and only the member profiles being released, this whole controversy still ends up being a weird kind of publicity. It's annoying, but at the same time, it works. So at the first team round of Idol INC, the host mentions to the shareholders that the odds of getting into the audience for the pre-recording of this competition were an astonishing ratio of 27 out of 1. He is sure they are all wondering what the first competition is even about. The contestants will be performing their own versions of hit songs from Korea's representative agencies. After the performances, people will vote for their favorite team and contestants. The most popular contestant in each team will receive a great advantage. And with that, they are about to begin the very first team round of Idol NC. That girl in the crowd is just sitting there, honestly kind of impatient, wondering when they are gonna start the concert already. The first round of the competition finally begins and the teams start to bring out their performances with everything they have got. The girl in the crowd isn't expecting much anyway. But when she watches, she thinks with the level these kids are performing, it kind of feels like a waste of camera memory. She even wonders if that rumor about them choosing part-timers as contestants was actually true. The next performance comes from a trendy agency which is known for mastering sexiness. That's Traveler. That's when Yujin jumps onto the stage, and his presence is actually a bit more spectacular than expected. The girl in the crowd can't believe that the center of its me is Yujin, and she can't believe he is just a trainee despite how good he is. People start to think he is definitely the center for a reason, and he already has that aura like a phantom, even though this is just the first competition. Now that our guy thinks about it, this team also has another handsome guy, Rabin, the trainee from the same agency as Yujin. People really like their performance, and the host also reminds them that if they think it's amazing, they have to press the button now. The girl in the crowd thinks that if only they were vocalists, she could have gotten better photos. So she decides to at least take a lot of shots to sell later if they make money. Some of the people even start thinking that maybe after this round, there won't be much left worth watching anyway. The girl in the crowd starts to think if she should just head back since she feels like, besides Chungwoo, she's already seen most of the famous kids. The next performance comes up from VTIC, who recently won the grand prize. The contestants will be covering a song from their agency, which is Letty. The girl in the crowd wonders if there is no actual VTIC member appearing, but then she guesses it makes sense since VTIC is the top male group right now. She thinks back and wonders what her idol was even doing when VTIC hit 1.2 million sales in the first week, and remembers he was out drinking and smashing his foreign car. Next up, the host mentions the next contestants are the Flowers and Fairies of K-pop. Their debut song changed the love of the general public through their refreshing and youthful charm. The girl can't believe it. It's the song Into the New World from Squishy Sweet. Letty doesn't necessarily mean a verdict here. The host tells all of the people to enjoy their performance. The girl in the crowd starts thinking she should get ready while it's still dark so she can head back soon. She thinks she is just gonna take a few photos since they are busy talking anyway. But suddenly, something catches her attention out of nowhere. The whole atmosphere of the podium just completely shifts into something dark and cold. And she can't even tell since when they were already standing there. A synthesizer with a sober tune fills the entire stage. This is when our guy jumps in with his vocals. He quickly grabs attention with his deep and clear voice that cuts through the heavy atmosphere. The girl in the crowd stares, kind of stunned because he doesn't even look human. She starts wondering if he is that Hinong who majored in modern dance. She can't believe how a performance can be this lifeless yet still so haunting. She notices that it has been dark since earlier, and the whole arrangement feels chilling, as if it has been twisted from the original. The lyrics are definitely the same, but the mood is completely different. It almost feels like a scene straight out of a horror movie. She sits frozen, totally stunned by everything happening in front of her. She can't believe what she is watching. She can't wrap her head around whether these are performers or some kind of spirits. It feels like they are watching her from every direction. Her heart races as she realizes that what she thought were ghosts are actually just people on stage. This team's name is actually October 31st, that day when non-human entities are said to ascend to the land, also known as Halloween. The revelation hits the girl in the crowd hard and she feels a shiver run down her spine. She's kind of lost in her thoughts now, trying to process what she just saw. A bit before this, our guy had asked Hyung if he had a better idea for the concept, and he confirmed it. And honestly, she just saw it happen. How about some horror? And now the crowd gets it too. It's eerie, it's bold, and it's unforgettable. Hyung turns to the guys and asks what they think about a Hollywood-style horror concept. At first, they stare at him in surprise, but then their expressions shift, and they say excitedly that they love the idea. Kwon stands, pointing out that the choreography is similar to modern dance, which will make it look truly eerie when combined with horror elements. The guy beside him mutters that it's better than tackling something overly complicated, and the other nods, saying they can manage if they base the concept on a horror movie. Sejin watches the sudden shift in everyone's opinions, unsure whether to push for his own idea. After a moment, he decides to step back and admits he likes Moonday's concept too. Lily watches quietly amused as Sejin admits it feels a little embarrassing but undeniably effective, earning him praise as the leader they expected. Lily scans the room, seeing the group settling down smoothly, but his gaze lingers on the one person who still seems uncertain, wondering how to reach him. Later, as night falls, Seon sits alone when Mooney approaches and asks if he's tired. Seon startles at the voice but insists he is not. Lily recalls noticing his lack of focus during the lecture and gently asks if he dislikes the idea. Seon waves it off, shivering slightly, and as Lily moves to sit, he hurriedly apologizes, promising he'll do better. Lily blinks surprised and asks if his discomfort comes from being around him. Shifting the topic, Lily recalls what the trainer said earlier, emphasizing that Seon is on his own but undeniably talented, making sure there's no room for misunderstanding. The trainer had known this all along, which explained the harshness that had seemed uncalled for before. Seon hesitates, tension visible in his trembling posture, and Lily reassures him silently that he can do it. The certainty in Lily's gaze leaves Seon momentarily stunned, a flicker of confusion crossing his face before curiosity sparks in his eyes. His thoughts race, wondering how he should move, how he should perform, and Lily notices the overthinking but chooses to let it settle naturally. With a sigh, he reminds Seon to clear his mind and simply commit to tell himself he's going to do this. Even this simple advice feels monumental to Seon, and he quiets himself, promising to try. Suddenly, the system window buzzes with a notification. Lightly glances at it and sees that Seon's ability draw has activated. The glow of the system confirms it. The improbable 35% chance has triggered, instantly neutralizing the status condition. Every element of Seon's performance, vocals, dancing, presence, swells in intensity, revealing the real Seon. Unburdened, spirited, and talented, a performer whose ability shines when freed from limitations. Lily tightens his grip on the mic, reflecting on the unfairness of chance, how some suffer while others benefit from randomness, but he forces himself to focus on the stage, the performance, the roar of the audience. The stadium erupts with cheers, and a girl in the audience, overwhelmed by the energy, feels a brief flush of flustered awe. The team's dominance is clear, and she knows this isn't the moment to panic, but to capture as much as possible, her camera trained on Seon alone. A sharp light suddenly strikes her eyes from the lens, and she freezes, realizing she had already adjusted the exposure to balance it perfectly. For a heartbeat, the world seems to hold its breath, the lens gaze almost alive, brushing against her awareness with an intangible presence that makes the hair on her arms prickle. The performance continues, and all the camera woman sees is him singing the song. She becomes so flustered that she forgets the reason she came over in the first place. In just a few seconds, a clear, piercing high note slices through the air, freezing her attention. The sudden realization hits her. She hadn't noticed the bloodstains on his clothes in the dark, and now she understands that they are vampires. Strangely, with that realization, her fear dissolves. Perhaps it's the atmosphere of the psalm or the way the idol on stage has shed the blank expression that had previously haunted him, leaving only raw, genuine emotion. The sadness that once lingered has transformed, and everyone is swept away by it. The audience shivers, stunned, before erupting into cheers, declaring them number one, the stadium vibrating with applause. The camera woman is so captivated that she forgets to take pictures entirely during the second half, especially when the main vocalist hits the high notes that make the crowd roar. She knows she will never forget this moment. The performer's talent is undeniable. Many main vocalists debut without even coming close to his level. His face is charming in a modern, trendy way, perfectly suited to the concept, and his presence is magnetic. She feels herself completely undone, captivated, and at the point of no return, utterly consumed by the performance.
The stage clears for the next team, and the last group stumbles backstage, totally worn out and out of breath. Moonday takes a deep breath, realizing it wasn't as bad as he thought it would be. Until now, he saw this as just a job. He figured the reality of it would hit him afterward. But out of nowhere, the audience starts yelling for an encore, and the team is caught off guard. Moonday has no idea when his mindset shifted. Suddenly, he starts seeing this gig as fun. Everyone is having a blast, reminiscing about their performance, jumping around like they're the best. Moonday gets swept up in the excitement, telling everyone they rocked it. He looks around, surprised to see even Lee Sejin caught up in the vibe. The others come over and form a circle, jumping around with excitement. They're really hoping to be on the same team again next time. Moonday is a bit thrown off by Sejin's sudden change in mood, but then he spots a staff member snapping photos and realizes it's all for the camera. He's still not sure if they really need to show off their teamwork like this, but in the end, he decides to just go with it. After that, everyone heads to the practice room, buzzing with energy as they get ready to watch the other team. Their performance totally blows them away, and they can't stop raving about the cool costumes and catchy lyrics. Moonday sits down and realizes that choosing that song was a mistake. He thinks picking a hit from a famous group is a risky move. The audience is just going to compare them to the original and not to the other teams. He knows there's no way they can outshine the original in the crowd's mind. Plus, the other team has a strong member, Ryu Chung-woo, but that won't really boost their score much. It's a bummer, but it just confirms that his own team did really well. It's finally time for the stage interview, and the interviewer is blown away by how prepared Moonday's team is. For Moonday, there's no pride in this survival show. The other team's interview just proves that. To stay in, you've got to do whatever it takes. At least he's happy his looks are at least a beak. Later, Moonday is browsing online and notices there's some drama with two guys named Sejin. His phone's blowing up with messages from the group, and he's getting anxious. He knows he needs to silence those notifications. After they won, someone set up a group chat, and now his phone won't stop buzzing. The other team was pretty emotional after losing, and Sejin thought a chat would be a good idea for their victory. Everyone was on board, but for Moonday, it's just annoying. He decides to ignore it. While he's sitting by himself, Sejin sneaks up from behind, asking if he's still stressing out. He smiles and tells Moonday he's been working really hard, saying he's being genuine about it. Moonday just looks back at him with a blank expression. Moonday throws a compliment back at Sejin, recognizing all the hard work he's put in as a leader. Sejin looks genuinely surprised by the praise, then laughs and agrees, saying he thinks he did a good job. He smiles and tells Moonday to ease up on the glaring, hinting that they should hang out more often. Moonday watches him closely, sensing that Sejin is trying to pull him into his social circle. He wonders if Seijin is thinking about cutting ties with some of his less capable colleagues from the agency. But with all those lingering rumors about Seijin's supposed drug connections, Moonday isn't looking to take any risks. He decides to cut this interaction short and plans to later fake a phone issue so he can quietly slip away. The moment gets a bit awkward when Seijin spots Sion peeking at them from the doorway. Sion, looking a bit nervous, asks if he can be added to their contacts. Moonday gives him a look, trying to figure out if he really wants in. After Sion nods, Moonday decides it's cool as long as they're careful and agrees. Seijin jumps in, suggesting they create a 3-person group chat for friends their age. And just like that, a new chat is born. After getting out of the shower, Moonday admits that the public reaction was pretty good. His teammates were excited about it, and everything wrapped up on a positive note. Still, he's not sure what to do next, knowing that team vibes play a big role in how initial votes turn out. As he towels off his hair, he looks in the mirror and makes up his mind. He has to pull away from this group, especially Sage. He plans to step back before things get out of hand. First, he checks his status window and sees a message congratulating him on a solid performance. Apparently, he impressed most people and scored a spin for a rare ability. This notification popped up after the audience's encore, and he's not entirely sure if everyone gets this reward after every show. But a rare ability definitely sounds like a big deal. So he gives the wheel a spin. It stops on Look at Me, a level D skill that makes him a bit more noticeable in a crowd. Moonday is confused by the vague description and can't help but wonder about the system's clarity. He thinks about grabbing a drink before hitting the sack. Just then, his phone buzzes with a message from Lee Seijin, who jokingly calls him out for ignoring the group chat and labels it a bold move. Moonday says sorry and explains he doesn't check his phone often. Seijin insists he should check the chat. As he scrolls through, Moonday sees the crew sharing their thoughts on the recent broadcast and updating each other on their lives, all bragging about their wins. Then a message from Seijin catches his eye. He jokes that Moonday must be washing his face with some high-end water from the broadcasting building because he looks even better every time they meet. Seijin begs him to spill the beans on his dermatologist's secrets. Before Moonday can think of a response, everyone else logs off. He powers down his phone, ready to call it a night since he feels like he's hit his social limit for the day. 5 days later, we find ourselves on the top floor of the T1 Convention Center, where all the contestants line up on stage. A staff member announces that everything will kick off once every reporter is here. It's now 5 days until the first episode drops, and the first big event for Idol Inc. is finally happening. Moonday stands with the other trainees, knowing he needs to really shine to grab the photographer's attention. He figures his looks need to be A-rank to stand out, but he shakes his head, realizing that no matter how hard he tries, he's only got B-level visuals for now, so he decides to just stay put and see how things unfold. Sion shows off some incredible looks and hands Moonday a pack of vitamins. Just then, Seijin pops up from behind and asks if there are any vitamins for him too, which totally gets everyone nearby buzzing. Moonday swallows hard in confusion, wondering if Sion is just a kid. Then, Cha Eugene, the top trainee, comes over. Moonday is left scratching his head, not really getting what's going on. Eugene gives him a nod, and Moonday asks if he means the performance of the top team. Eugene gives him a thumbs up and goes on about how much he loves Moonday's stage presence, saying he wants to be on his team next time. Moonday thinks it over and says he'd be down if he could, but he's not sure if Eugene is trying to control him or just recruit him. A gloomy thought hits him. Maybe Eugene's just kind of clueless. Now it's press conference time. Moonday knows he has to focus. It's really a dog-eat-dog world, and only the toughest survive. The rules of survival haven't changed throughout history. To make it through, he's got to use every advantage he can get. Suddenly, standing in the crowd of contestants, he yells that he'll boost their stock value, even though he cringes inside at how cheesy it sounds. As they step outside, a crowd of reporters rushes at them, yelling their name. Moonday freezes up when he hears multiple voices calling for him. The contestants quickly find themselves surrounded. Noticing Sion looking a bit lost, Moonday pulls him closer, suggesting they take some pictures together to help deal with the chaos. Seijin spots their confusion and jumps in too, sliding right into the frame. Moonday is surprised by this and starts to feel uneasy about them getting closer. He realizes things are getting out of hand. Ever since that group chat started, they're now being photographed as a trio, making it seem like they're best friends, and it's starting to feel like a done deal in the public eye. His train of thought gets interrupted when he spots a woman in the crowd of reporters. She looks familiar from back in the day. She used to run a fan site and bought data from him every now and then. The main vocalist she was into just got caught up in a drunk driving scandal, and he can't help but wonder if she's turning her attention to him now, but that thought passes quickly. He realizes her being there could actually be a good thing. She takes great photos, and getting them out there before the first episode drops would be awesome for exposure. Later that night, the editing room is buzzing with chaos. The directors have wrapped up the first cut, but are now going back and forth about which contestants should get the most airtime. One exhausted staff member yawns and points out that the director keeps going back to certain clips. He throws out the idea of focusing on an underdog story, mentioning it would simplify things for the writers too. The lead director shoots him a look, saying she'll think about it, but at the end of the day, only viewer ratings really matter. The first episode is going to be a special 2-hour show. Moonday is freaking out as he watches the preview material, which shows real, unfiltered internet comments that are just blurred out. He downs his drink, trying to convince himself that the show's premiere is something to celebrate, but all the contestants have been shoved into a studio to watch the first episode and film delayed reactions. He's so exhausted he feels like he could just collapse any second. Still, he knows he has to stay sharp, watching the audience's reactions to plot out his survival strategy. From what he can tell, viewers love Wongil's cute expressions, though some find him a bit too clingy. Then there's II3, who goes viral just for being super tall at 187 centimeters. Not only is he tall, but he's also got a solid build and good looks, which quickly make him popular. Moonday checks out the online reactions and sees most of them are pretty positive. The character development and screen time seem pretty balanced, especially since a lot of his teammates are featured, so their growing fame helps him too. But he knows that his own screen time is the most important factor. His browsing takes him to a hot new topic. He clicks on it and finds it's about Sion and Cha Eugene. A wave of dread washes over him. It's the same stuff they saw earlier. He feels a twinge of gloom, thinking back to his own embarrassment. He wanted to come off as someone who gave his all even though he wasn't the best dancer, but the edit made him look ridiculous with this weird, intense focus. At first, he was worried about becoming a meme hurting his rep, but the comments are actually way more positive than he expected. It's hard to predict what's going to trend online, but he realizes that his genuine vibe during that part really clicked with people. He's honestly surprised that the editing and public reaction turned out way better than he thought. In the end, the good result makes the unusual approach worth it. Out of nowhere, his system alerts him that he's made an impact on 50,000 people and gives him a shot at a real ability. He starts to wonder if all this buzz is just from one episode, and if he's ready to take the next step. He went viral not because of anything wild, but for his chill vibe and a voice that really connected with the audience. Because episode 1 blew up, more and more people are starting to remember him. He scrolls through different monitoring sites and sees his name ranking pretty high. But it's a bit of a mixed bag, with both positive and negative feedback coming in. The top comments are mostly good, but the dislikes are pretty noticeable, especially when he compares himself to someone like Cha Eugene. At least the dislikes are only in the double digits. He's feeling a bit stuck on what to do next. Should he push back against the way the show has portrayed him? He knows that audiences often warm up to someone who seems a bit aloof at first, but later shows they're friendly and easygoing. Thinking back to his blunt intro, he realizes viewers might connect better with him if he shares a more relatable side. He's looking into individual PR videos, really honing in on his goal. The next shoot is all about these personal introductions, where all 77 participants will get to show themselves off to the live TV audience. It's a perfect chance for him to connect with viewers without any meddling from the producers. With just 3 days left until the shoot, he figures he needs to hold on to his unique trait, especially after using it just yesterday in a pinch. Until then, he's all about diving into as much research as he can. 3 days later, in the dorm conference room, the leader asks if everyone's ready, and the response is a bunch of excited cheers. They're about to kick off a treasure hunt, and everyone bolts out. Just 10 minutes before, 2 guys were being way too affectionate with Moonday. He looked at them like they were crazy and asked what was going on. They told him they were just hyping up the star of the first episode, saying he's totally on his way to being a big deal now that people loved his mix of humor and skill. They even called him a superstar. They also mentioned how bummed they were that he never chats in the group. Then, out of nowhere, they turned their attention to Sion, who panicked and insisted he was only there by chance. Moonday figured out they were just messing with him because they were so excited, especially since the cameras weren't rolling. A staff member caught their attention and mentioned that they seemed to already know what the day was about. He let them know that they would be meeting with shareholders from all over the globe who had been waiting for them, but there was also a special mission, specifically an ultimate broadcast PPL mission. He showed them a screen that laid out how they needed to promote different products while hosting a live show. He reassured them not to feel let down about the commercial vibe of the event, since the T1 projects really have a lot of potential depending on how they're utilized. This event could really help their unique vibes pop even more. Moonday gets it. It's going to be packed with ads everywhere. Then the staff kicks off this crazy 15-minute treasure hunt, and suddenly, over 70 guys are charging off in a frenzy. While everyone else is zooming around, Moonday just stands there, thinking that his best bet is to sneak out the back. He slips outside for a breath of fresh air, hoping to find some peace, but before he knows it, someone's right there in front of him. The guy suggests teaming up, catching Moonday off guard as he wonders how they even tracked him down. The duo, Hyung and Sejin, seem super pumped and say they're going to shadow him everywhere. He thinks to himself that having 2 extra guys around is a bit annoying but totally doable. So he turns toward the warehouse and tells them to stick with him before the others catch up. With just 15 minutes on the clock, they start frantically searching. After looking around, someone remembers the cafeteria. That's where they find 2 balls, 1 gold and 1 silver. Moonday figures out that these balls stand for different rankings. Once they finish up in the cafeteria, he notices that his 2 friends are surprisingly reliable. They're flexible and know how to play to their strengths. He even remembers that he wasn't annoyed with them during practice, and thanks to their teamwork, they've got a solid haul: 4 gold, 2 silver, and 4 bronze balls. They sit down, realizing they can't find any more, and start sorting the balls by color. They decide to give Moonday 2 gold balls for letting them tag along, which makes everyone happy. Moonday thinks he should throw something into the mix, so he says he'll skip the bronze balls, letting them take 2 each. Out of nowhere, an announcement blares that there are only 200 seconds left, telling everyone to head over to the staging area. The 3 of them decide to make their way there, wishing each other good luck. As the clock ticks down, contestants start gathering around. Moonday figures that 2 gold balls have got to be better than a bunch of silver or bronze ones. Then, he spots something that totally freaks him out. The golden balls pop open, and he finds a tag for a guitar inside one. He quickly opens the second one and freaks out when he sees a flower crown. This is a total disaster. He can't even play the guitar, and with his B-rank looks, he definitely can't pull off a flower crown. The thought of how the audience will react makes him panic, so he yells for Sejin to trade. He catches a glimpse of Sejin, but there's a huge crowd around him, and there's no way he can push through in time. Feeling stuck with his lame prizes, he suddenly spots Sion all by himself, holding some frozen food. He shouts out, and when Sion looks over, he asks if he wants the guitar. Seon seems a bit confused, but says he can actually play it. Then Moonday asks if he likes flowers. Seon says he does, so Moonday suggests a trade, and just like that, they swap items as the hunt wraps up. The leader calls for everyone with a treasure ball to come together. Moonday can't help but smirk, thinking this has turned out to be a good partnership. But then he realizes he gave away 2 gold balls and only got a bronze one back. Not exactly a win in his books. With just 10 minutes to go until the live stream, everyone starts getting ready to put on their best show for the audience. Finally, it hits 8:00 p.m. Time for Moonday's group to shine. They're all doing great, especially Sion with his guitar and that flower crown. Then all eyes shift to someone doing a mukbang. Yup, it's Moonday, quietly diving into a whole plate of chicken feet live on stream. He announces he'll kick things off with just 1 single bite. The chat blows up with viewers confused, wondering if this is a punishment or just a weird choice, while some are just excited to interact with him. The viewer count skyrockets to 5,900 as people get hooked on his quirky eating style. Moonday notices he's already polished off half the plate. He thinks about revealing his secret weapon and finally shows off some kimchi mayo kimbap. He points to it, saying he'll munch on it along with the chicken feet, confidently predicting this will push him over the 10,000 viewer mark. A feat even pro streamers have a hard time hitting. He decides to thank the audience for tuning in first, and just like that, the time runs out. Moonday quickly says goodbye to everyone on screen. Once the stream ends, he doesn't even get a chance to check the results. The leader made an announcement, giving everyone props and throwing in an extra 5 minutes. He mentioned that viewers could support the participants with super chats, and any donation over 10,000 won would show up as a message on the participant's screen, with the full amount going to them. That was it. Moonday set his screen aside and got back to work. Donations started flooding in through the special chat. People were impressed with his conversational skills and began donating, leading to a wave of questions popping up on the screen. The extra 5 minutes really light up the room. Moonday is staring at the screen, totally confused. Why is everyone so obsessed with his relationships? His chat is blowing up with questions about his close friends. He knows naming names is a bad idea. It could shift the spotlight away from him and make any future split super messy. So he decides to dodge the question completely. He calls it a spoiler and switches to a different subject, all while the donations keep coming in. At one viewer's request, he even sings a little. But as he reaches the middle of the song, the timer is almost up. He stops abruptly, announces it's time to say goodbye, thanks everyone for tuning in, and tries to answer more questions, but suddenly, the stream cuts off. The audience buzzes, bummed that they can't chat more. The comments explode with their excitement. Moonday looks through them, surprised. They're talking about him like he's a real celebrity. Honestly, he can't even answer those personal questions because he doesn't know much about the real Moonday, and that cluelessness hits right home when it comes to his singing skills. Feeling lazy, he just lays down. He totally stretched out the time and sang on purpose. He knows he did a good job of softening his image by being friendly. Now people are calling him the 29-year-old Moon Puppy, a nickname he can't believe. Ever since his parents passed away, he couldn't be a picky eater anymore. He often had no way to save leftovers, so he just stuffed his face with whatever. People say he eats well, so he figures that can win over fans. No need to stress over it. Honestly, this whole thing feels kind of overwhelming. He's grateful for the audience supporting him. Thanks to them, he feels a little closer to not having a heart attack. Episode 2 dropped earlier and was edited pretty well. The producers really went all out to show this guy's ranking evolution. They made it look like he was a contender worthy of a platinum grade by including footage of him practicing all week without sleeping. The show paints Moonday as a naturally gifted, everyday person who does things in his own style. But he's got one concern. It looks like the producer wants to keep pushing this specific image of Park Moonday. Despite the fact that he's gained a chicken feet puppy persona during the PR Live, he knows he can't let his guard down. As he gulps down a cold drink, he thinks to himself that editing isn't everything. Moonday's train of thought gets interrupted when Seijin asks if he's free next week. Seijin wants to catch the third episode with the whole crew. Moonday just looks at him, questioning if this is really a good idea. Then he freaks out when he checks his phone and sees that everyone else has already said yes. There's no way he can be the only one to bail. He can't stand the thought of what the audience would say about it. So he reluctantly agrees. Fast forward a week, and he's standing outside a gate with Sion. Moonday's curious if this is Sion's studio. Sion smiles and tells him to make himself at home as he opens the door. Inside, Seijin's all hyped up for their viewing party. Moonday's still a bit lost, wondering whose place this actually is. They talk about food and end up deciding on chicken because they think it'll be a good choice. The scene moves to the 9th floor of the headquarters, where the editing team is running on fumes. They're exhausted and venting about how they've been stuck editing the PR livestream footage. Everything feels blurry from the lack of sleep. Now it's time to dive into the next segment since the PR event just wrapped up. They're pulling another all-nighter, racing against the clock, only to have another live stream scheduled right after. One editor jokes about how it's a miracle they're even still awake. Meanwhile, a female producer storms out into the alley, fuming. She grinds her teeth in frustration, unhappy with the final cut. She can't believe all the best storylines got cut out. This version feels totally off compared to episodes 1 and 2, thanks to the lead editor ignoring her suggestions. Letting out a sigh, she comes to terms with her lack of control and heads off to find some food and get some sleep. The three guys are having a blast at their chicken party while others join in. They're joking around with Lily, calling him the chicken feast master and pointing out that they've got actual chicken, not just chicken feet. Moonday is quietly enjoying the food and soaking in the fun vibes, thinking how everyone's energy is making it a night to remember. But then he spots two guys across from him, just glooming out on their phones. He gets up thinking he just can't wrap his head around their mood swings. The third episode is about to drop and the energy in the room is buzzing. Lily is glued to the screen, complaining that everything's been edited to look wrong. She knows Seijin mentioned a bunch of names, so there's gotta be at least one that made it into the final cut. On screen, Team B looks totally down while their side is having a blast. Moonday realizes the whole vibe is totally twisted. The other team seemed to sort their stuff out, but the editing makes it seem like a total mess from the get-go. It's like the reality got flipped upside down, even messing with his performance of Into the New World. The room bursts into laughter when they hear him singing. Moonday gets that his words are all jumbled up. He thinks about clearing things up, but decides it's not worth jumping in. The episode moves on to their training sessions, reminding everyone just how tough their leader was and how nerve-wracking it really. Moonday is watching the screen and notices that the way it's edited makes Sion the main target of the choreographer's scolding. He dodged that edit, but looking back, the teacher went a little too far. Honestly, he wished the guy would lose all his hair. The scene where Moonday tries to cheer up Sion after the scolding made it into the final cut, which gets the other participants buzzing since they never thought they'd see that moment. Moonday realizes the timing is all messed up. This happened after they rearranged things. He's confused about why they changed it. Even Hyung is surprised because he only made that comment after checking that the main camera wasn't rolling. Just like that, Moonday finds himself in the middle of gossip and fun, turning that moment into something out of an anime about friendship. He's not even sure if he was just a regular, straightforward guy who reacted to whatever was in front of him before all this. Moonday can't help but creep up to Sion, wondering if the producers decided to totally change his edit. Everyone freaks out when their scene plays, and then Choi Won starts arguing, looking horrified at seeing himself. Out of nowhere, Moonday spots the second Lee Se-jin and is shocked that he'd say something like that in an interview. Then the editing takes a wild turn. They completely cut out all of Choi Won's arguments. Thinking back, they also axed the part where they switched roles at the beginning. It looks like they chopped out the little squabbles to make the flow smoother, so the second part hits harder. But honestly, the main thing is his own edit. He barely gets any screen time, and when he does appear, he looks way too serious, making everyone laugh at him. Moonday realizes he's kinda reflecting on this too. Acting like that around other aspiring celebs really makes him seem lifeless. And just like that, the video rolls on, giving them more reasons to crack up. The editing really shows Sion as the top dancer, even making Kyun Se-jin look less impressive. Moonday can't believe the crazy hype around it. There's a scene where a judge praises Sion directly, and he thinks about how he'd want to send her a gift if everything goes well for him. Their team's edit looks amazing, especially when you compare it to the other team, whose performance was pretty rough. Definitely worthy of a moment of silence. The episode wraps up with some confusing cuts that seem to push for votes for Ryu Chung-woo, but their team still feels like they've had a solid win, both live and on screen. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief as the video ends, their fears finally melting away. They all show appreciation for each other's hard work, and the whole experience makes Se-jin feel even more grateful for their team. A few days later, Moonday's grabbing a drink when a group of girls spots him right away. They rush over, super excited and asking for a selfie. He's super aware of his bare face, but goes along with it anyway, relieved when they use a beauty filter. It's wild to already be recognized in public. He knows things will get even crazier as the show progresses. His current dorm is cheap with terrible security, so he has to remember to figure out better safety later. Suddenly, a notification pops up saying he's impressed 100,000 people and scored a point. He stares at the alert, totally surprised. The girls are buzzing, showing him how his New World stage is trending online. He's shocked. Viewer numbers have skyrocketed, and comments are flooding in, with everyone talking about his performance. Scrolling through his phone, he sees that posts about him spark debates. Still, his popularity has shot up in a scary way. It's even wilder when he spots posts from the group Squishy 3 jumping into the online conversation. After catching a Yu Yoon broadcast, he figures out there were definitely some issues behind the scenes. That might make it easier to move on to the second round, but he's still worried about the show potentially giving him a bad reputation. He decides to check out what people are saying. To his surprise, he's got the most fan cam views of all 31st members. The comments are mostly positive, and the social media vibe is similar. It's a little embarrassing, but honestly feels pretty great. Not a bad feeling at all. He knows this polished view isn't the full story, and if he looked deeper, he'd probably find all kinds of different reactions. Just as he expected, a wave of critical comments starts rolling in. Moonday saw the criticism coming, but it still stings to read those harsh comments lined up one after another. He spots a weird one among the others. A lot of accounts are using another contestant's photo as their profile, which makes him suspect they aren't true fans of Cha Yoon-jin. He knows this whole tactic, fans pretending to support popular contestants just to stir up trouble. It makes him anxious. During the first team match, it was all about supporting your own teammates, but now it's all about throwing individuals from rival teams at each other. It freaks him out to realize he's been set up as Cha Yoon-jin's direct competitor. Of all the possible outcomes, he's facing the fierce support of the leading contestants' fans, all because his own team has done so well. The comments are just brutal, mocking his skills left and right. He tries to calm himself down, reminding himself that he can only get better with time, Plus, he can track his progress with actual stats. Still, as he reads through the comments, he can't shake the nagging feeling that people think he doesn't deserve his spot unless he looks better. He takes a deep breath and tells himself that this isn't how everyone feels. And about his looks? He's got a month before the first ranking announcement, so he decides to make some tweaks. He opens his status window and adds a point to his visual stat, thinking that even a small change shouldn't raise too many eyebrows. Then he hits up the group chat, asking for salon recommendations, determined to take this seriously. Meanwhile, in a PC cafe, a girl who's now totally behind Moonday is working hard. After the first team match, she tossed aside any doubts and threw all her energy into supporting him. She's set on seeing him debut, spreading the word among her friends. And before she knows it, she's created a fan account in his name. She's convinced he won't get eliminated here, but what matters is his final ranking. She bites her nails in frustration, wishing it would be simpler if he just locked in a high rank from the start. Today, she even made a secret account just for the dedicated Moonday fans. After she wraps up a post, she takes a deep breath, realizing that getting back into this kind of support after a break makes her feel alive. To unwind, she starts watching behind-the-scenes clips from the PR live streams, hoping to catch more Moonday moments. She's curious about why he picked chicken feet as his food, wondering if his treasure hunt performance was so bad that was all he got. As she watches, she's impressed by how he's performed from the beginning, with the comments full of praise for judgment. But then, a gloomy feeling hits her. She can't believe the production team would mess with the treasure hunt balls just for laughs. Her trust in the broadcasters is totally gone. The audience is just as confused while watching him trade items with Sion at the last second. The edit shows him being sweet to Sion when he got sick, which makes him come off as really likable. While she's happy he's getting recognition, part of her wishes it hadn't happened this way. She knows when a trainee starts to get attention, fans dig into every picture from their past, and ideally, it's better for them to build a fan base based on their raw talent. Luckily, Moonday doesn't seem to have any sketchy past, making her wonder if he's just been a quiet, reserved guy. An image that totally fits him. Thinking about him brings her happiness and a sense of security she hasn't felt in ages. It makes her appreciate being a fan even more because of that deep feeling. She gets so lost in her thoughts that she doesn't even realize the new episode has started. When Moonday pops up on screen, she gasps, and the can in her hand drops to the floor. Her eyes widen in disbelief. Moonday's hair is now this bold shade of blonde. Yeonjo is buzzing with nervous excitement. His looks are just unreal, leaving everyone around her in awe. She can't help but wonder how one person can be so perfect, feeling like he's got the best of everything. Part of her wishes he stays single forever, but then she remembers she forgot to grab a screenshot of his reaction. She figures someone else must have caught it, so she trusts the wider fan base and his loyal fans. Meanwhile, Kim Yeonju is busy cleaning up her spilled Coke as the behind-the-scenes PR footage keeps rolling. Finally, the moment they've all been waiting for arrives, the ranking announcement. But first, they reveal the results from the initial team battle. Sion takes first place in Team A, and Cheongwoo does the same in Team B. Both guys look totally surprised, and everyone celebrates Sion's win. Then the host announces that some participants have been selected by the stockholders during the first team match. These lucky ones are guaranteed to move on, no matter how they rank today. Yeonju is blown away. She didn't realize that the special perk they mentioned before the match was this huge. But thinking it over, it doesn't feel like such a big edge since getting first place already came from hard work. Still, she wishes Moonday could have snagged it instead. On the screen, the edits from Tiger Team create a totally different vibe compared to Team October's. As the announcement goes on, she notices that even though there were some internal issues after the match, the editors are avoiding a full-on negative portrayal, probably not wanting to upset the fans. She isn't a fan of that storyline, but figures it doesn't matter since it's not about Moonday's team. She redirects her attention back to her blonde-haired favorite. Sure, there are solo fans, but her main focus is on him, so she decides to just tune them out. While lost in her thoughts, she snaps back to reality as the host starts announcing the rankings from 31st place down. She sits up, knowing her guy's name is about to come up. One by one, contestants find out their ranks, and the crowd rallies around Moonday, who's sitting quietly. Yeonju is ecstatic to see that her boy made it into the top 12. That's a huge deal. As the rankings continue, she really wanted him in the top 10, but the competition is tough. Contestants like Cha Yujin and Kim Rabin are holding strong positions, along with impressive dancers like Min Jung-hoon and former popular guys like Ryu Chungwoo and Lee Se-jin. She tries to be happy for him, reaching the top 8 this time. Her heart races as the host announces the 8th place, Lee Se-jin A. She's stunned, thinking he would be in the top 5 for sure. Clutching her teddy bear tightly, her heartbeat is pounding as she desperately waits to find out where her boy lands. For Yeonju, finishing in 8th place would be an awesome achievement. Her heart races as they skip over 7th and 6th, and when he finally lands in 5th, she can't help but freak out. She's so pumped that he's in the top ranks and slams her hands on the table in pure excitement. All that effort she put into promoting Moondae rushes back to her. In the group chat, everyone is buzzing about his success. Fans are encouraged to buy stocks under Moondae's name during the free trading hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. to boost his visibility. She's almost in tears, thinking about all the votes and stock buys she rallied for him. Then, reality hits her, and she starts typing away on her computer, but pauses. She figures that going overboard on social media might just stir up drama. It's clear that too much hype could backfire, so she decides to keep her cool as a fan of someone who's doing great. Finally, Moondae takes the stage for his speech. He's genuinely happy, calls his ranking generous, and promises to keep improving for the supporters who invested in him. His friends are all smiles for him. Yeonju tears up, thinking he's such a nice guy, a high-ranking, kind person with clean edit. Honestly, she's relieved he's doing well, despite her past frustrations with how the staff sometimes portrayed him. The other ranks don't even matter to her right now. Still, she can't help but hope Yujin doesn't do well. His fans have really gotten on her nerves. Sion grabs 3rd place and is crying happy tears, while Park Moondae helps him wipe them away. Yujin wins first, with Changwoo in 2nd. Yeonju's got a real beef with Yujin because of his fans, plus he gives off a pretty negative vibe. It would have been better if the other guy had won, but whatever. Deep breath, she tells herself to just let it go. Once the rankings are announced, she's really hoping they'll finally drop the full version of Park Moondae's fancam. She swears she's going to get a solid video of him heading to the show. She knows they'll pick teams for the second match soon. With 49 contestants left after the first round, and since Big Se-jin and Sion are tight with Moondae, she's curious who will end up on his team. She smiles, thinking her boy did great, and just hopes he can perform freely, no matter who his teammates are. Meanwhile, Moondae is freaking out up on stage. Participant Kim Rabin picks him as his first teammate, leaving Moondae confused and unsure why. Bin then goes for another buddy, a smart pick that Moondae totally respects and would have chosen himself. And just like that, the second team match kicks off. Of the 49 participants, they randomly picked 7 to compete in quizzes, and Kim Rabin is one of them. He's 18 and comes from the same entertainment company as the top contestant. Rabin initially placed 4th in the first rankings, but managed to snag 2nd place in the end. He's got this tough guy vibe with his sharp features and blunt attitude, but surprisingly, he's super polite. Moondae can't figure out why this guy he barely knows chose him. Sure, Rabin's a rapper, and maybe he doesn't see a vocalist like Moondae as competition, but it still doesn't make sense. Moondae thinks maybe Rabin picked him for his usefulness, admitting he'd do the same in Rabin's shoes. But Rabin's last team had someone who became the main vocalist, yet this time, he left him out. Wouldn't it be safer to stick with familiar faces? Then Moondae remembers the first team's morale tanked after their ranking reward was announced. There were even whispers of off-camera clashes, with members nearly fighting. So now, Rabin's cut ties with his old crew and gone for Moondae, the one who delivered the best results. Even with a logical reason behind it, being picked first still sends chills down Moondae's spine. For now though, he decides it's not something to dwell on. Taking a look at their new team, Moondae sees everyone is ranked in the top 15. The pressure's on. If they don't nail their performance, they're done for. The other team, led by Wangul, has all his old mates, making it clear Moondae doesn't belong there. Since Rabin picked him first, he didn't have a say, although he doubts he would have picked Rabin either. He wonders if Rabin isn't worried about the backlash that'll come when the episode airs. Everyone was shocked when Rabin chose Lee Se-jin A, and even Se-jin seemed taken aback. Moondae gives him a nod, thinking it's probably because Se-jin still had the highest rank among the leftover participants. His friends look at him with pity, and he's worried about the whole situation. Bin names Cheongwoo as their team leader, and everyone seems cool with it, saying it suits him perfectly. For Moonday, it feels like a good start, but he can sense the tension behind their smiles. They've been through enough chaos already, and he knows the production crew loves to capture dramatic moments. They really need to keep things together. Finally, it's time for the theme announcement of the second team match, which pops up on the big screen. The host mentions it's a recurring challenge, and Moonday realizes it's happening this season too. The theme is finding buried masterpieces. Basically, songs that didn't hit it big, but are still great. They're supposed to revive them, which makes sense because it costs less than getting a new song composed. Plus, they can benefit from these remakes. The host says it's time to pick items from the table, and the team leaders have to race to grab one. Thanks to Cheongwoo, their leader, Moonday thinks they won't need to worry too much about the race. The tricky part is matching the items to the artists. Sejin comes over and asks what he would pick, surprising Moonday since he didn't think Sejin would want to chat. Moonday admits he's not sure, and asks for Sejin's thoughts. Sejin suggests the limited edition film DVD because it's likely a tough find, but then Raben approaches and says he was considering asking Cheongwoo to check the items closely before making a pick. He asks both of them what they think. Moonday is confused. Why is Raben asking him? He tells Raben he likes Sejin's idea, puzzled because he thinks Raben could just relay this to their leader directly. Maybe there's more to Raben than he expected. It's race time, and everyone's all in. Cheongwoo is leading the charge and reaches the favorite items first. He turns around, looks at his team, and grabs a ball that has an autograph from athlete Ryu Wanbum. Knowing he's a baseball fan, he quickly recognizes it and hurries back. Everyone's amazed. He tosses the ball like it's no big deal, but then someone catches it. Taeyang Sum, the vocalist of the idol group Lee Chan-woo. Moonday's intuition kicks in again. This is definitely not good. Taeyang Sum tells them the song he's giving them is Burning Like the Sun. The contestants gathered with their leaders to get their song, and there was definitely a vibe of envy in the air, especially toward the team that got a track from the well-known Caleb Young-heim. Moonday watched them, realizing that scoring a song from such a big name means way more screen time and avoids the awkwardness of taking an obscure idol's hit. Still, he knows that the real quality of the song is what matters the most. A singer's fame can fade, but a great song has lasting power. Looking at what his team got, Burning Like the Sun, he knows it's a huge deal. Even people who don't follow baseball recognize this 7-year-old cheer anthem that everyone loved. The original artist was pumped too, hoping they'd put together an awesome performance with it. Moonday feels a chill. They might need his system's help to really nail it. During a quick break, Moonday sits by himself and checks his status window. The system tells him 50,000 people now remember him and prompts him to pick a rare attribute. He realizes this pop-up has been showing for weeks, ever since the first broadcast, though he didn't plan to wait this long. His current stats show that his visual, vocal, and dance ratings all went up by 1 level because he put points into vocal and dance during the first team match. Now he has 1 point left. He's tempted to dump it all into his visual stat, but he hesitates, unsure about how the other stats work. A sudden change in his looks would raise eyebrows. People already noticed when he debuted with blonde hair at the ranking announcement, which he could explain away because he had a month to dye it, but it still sparked some suspicion. He wants to keep that cute puppy image, so his current look works for him. For now, he decides to hold off on visuals and hopes this spin will give him something really useful. He gives the wheel a try, aiming for a silver slot, but is shocked to land a duplicate of what he had before. The system flashes an error about the duplicate, but he brushes it off as a common issue in mass-produced games. He has no clue how combining duplicate items works, but with no other choice, he goes for it. Suddenly, he feels a rush of energy and is surprised to see that the combination actually worked, staring in disbelief at the new attribute. Even if the name sounds cheesy, it boosts his stats by a whole level. Just when he's checking it out, Cheongwoo walks over, saying it's time for the team meeting and asking if that's cool with him. Moonday tells him he's good with it. They all meet up in the practice room, and the leader suggests they kick things off by talking about what kind of performance they want to create. He thinks they should stick with the vibe of the song, so he proposes a cheerleading concept and asks for everyone's thoughts. Moonday glances at the top contender, Cha Yoo-jin, and checks his status window again. Seeing those 3 back-to-back A's is pretty intimidating. Yoo-jin is clearly the standout performer in their group, even outshining Youngrin, who's a real singer. Everyone seems on board with the leader's idea. Moonday takes a deep breath. With his own stats looking not so great, his charm is at a C+, the lowest it's ever been. He worries he's going to get overshadowed on stage by his teammates. He really needs to think about how to use his last point wisely. The leader asks the quieter members of the group to share their thoughts. He suddenly walks over to Seijin A, catching him off guard. Seijin A says he thinks cheerleading might come off as a bit cheesy. The others nod along, agreeing it makes sense, and they ask him what he would suggest instead. He admits he doesn't have any ideas, which is why he hasn't said anything. Then the leader turns to Raven for his take. Raven says he doesn't know the song well enough yet, and needs to listen first. After giving it a listen, the leader looks confused because the key is super high, and that gets everyone worried. Moonday leans back, thinking this isn't the time to bring up concerns, but he notices Raven seems to have caught on to the issue. After listening, Raven says he thinks the song is good, but honestly, it'll be tough for them to arrange, though he doesn't offer another idea. Moonday glances at him, realizing Raven is still cautious after the drama from the first team match. Given the rough editing and the backlash he got despite his talented rearrangement, it's no surprise he's being more. The leader then turns to Moonday, asking for his thoughts. Caught off guard, Moonday realizes it's his turn now. He points out that before diving into the song rearrangement, they should decide on part distribution. Just because they haven't nailed down the song's concept doesn't mean they can't start working on what they do have, so he suggests they jump right into practicing the parts they've already figured out. A wave of confusion washed over the group. In Moonday's head, one question kept bouncing around. Is this a good song? Sure. It's a well-known cheer anthem that everyone knows, a classic at any idol's debut. But is it right for an idol competition? Definitely not. He told the members that it's tough to sing, so they need to quickly sort out the parts and start practicing. If he had a say in it, he would toss this song aside in a second. It doesn't have a cool concept, no fairies or vampires, yet someone tried to force one in. Splitting the song among a bunch of people is a hassle, loaded with impossible high notes. His not-so-subtle message was clear. Assign the parts first, arrange later, and practice like it's the end of the world. The leader thought it over and asked for everyone's opinions. Most were fine with it, so the leader nervously announced their theme would be cheerleading. Was everyone on board? Soon, they all started singing to figure out their parts. A scary truth came to light. No one except Moonday could even hit the chorus, and he wasn't sure he could pull it off even with practice. One person suggested lowering the key before handing out parts, claiming only the main vocal could handle the original version. Moonday blinked, realizing this guy was contradicting his own plan by suggesting they rearrange first. But everyone else was on board, excitedly throwing in ideas for rap parts and changing up the instrumentals to amp up the cheerleading vibe. The leader stood firm, insisting they needed to be able to sing it as is so they could start practicing. With no way out, Raven finally gave in to what the group wanted. Moonday watched him surrender, looking like a scientist who just predicted doom and was now being asked to help set up for the end-of-the-world party. He admitted defeat, knowing he was fighting a losing battle against the majority. Looking back, their way of convincing the team was surprisingly smart. He found himself unable to come up with a better idea and, to his surprise, felt a small spark of gratitude. Though he was dragged into this against his will, a bit of enjoyment had snuck in. His new plan? Wait for some outside critic to tear them apart. When the leader said to kick off the choreography, it was immediately met with a shout about the unfinished song arrangement. Their performance for the judges kicked off, with everyone giving it their all. The panel was impressed since they were the first team to try a rearrangement. One judge threw in a backhanded compliment, saying the performance wasn't terrible, but the vocals had all the charm of a deflating balloon. Another judge applauded the cool choreography, but pointed out its oddly gloomy vibe, a subtle jab at Moonday's C+ dance skills. The judges huddled together, whispering about how the song just didn't have any energy. The final verdict was brutal. Their rearrangement turned a beloved song into something way worse. They wanted to know who was responsible for this musical disaster. All eyes turned to one terrified kid. A judge directly asked if Raven was to blame. Moonday knew the real culprits were the members demanding too much, not the arranger. Trying to avoid eye contact with Kim was pointless. The leader smartly said it was a group decision, a tactical move that made Moonday give a mental thumbs up. Out of nowhere, another team member yells that Raven is the one to blame. Moonday is in shock. Is this guy really trying to win a worst teammate award? Throwing Raven under the bus like that is just going to create a massive wave of frustration. Moonday knows he has to step in. He carefully builds up his argument, pointing out Raven's skills with software and stressing how everyone, including him, was part of the process that led to this mess. The team looks at him confused, while he silently wishes for the accused to just keep quiet. The leader jumps in, promising to take the feedback seriously and to pull off a great performance. A judge asks if they can actually turn everything around, warning them that they'll have to deal with the consequences, something they definitely won't forget. They all agree, a bit shakily. Moonday lets out a sigh of relief, feeling a little less stressed for the moment. The judge reminds them that even a new version doesn't guarantee it'll be better. Moonday knows that the final edit is totally riding on their results. The leader checks if everyone really believes they can improve. Another judge looks at them with a sympathetic expression, apologizing for dampening their spirits, but saying he didn't feel the song's real energy in their performance. The judge goes into detail, saying that real music hits home when it's full of genuine emotion, and this song only makes sense when it strikes a chord. He points out that as artists, their job is to tap into that raw energy, courage, and passion. He wants to know if they really get what he's saying. He warns them that momentary fame won't lead to lasting love, and the way they're interpreting the song now is a slap in the face to its original vibe. Chungwoo jumps in, saying he gets it, and the rest agree, promising to step up their game. Moonday twists open his water bottle and flops down in a chair with a tired sigh. He realizes that to nail down the right feeling, they need to throw out everything they thought they knew. But all this talk about passion and artistic expression just frustrates him. Looking around at his teammates, he sees nobody has any better ideas. It's even more evident when the leader calls for another team meeting, making their future seem pretty bleak. He stays behind, lost in his thoughts. Out of nowhere, Kim Rabin walks over. He quietly asks Moonday for a moment. Moonday looks up, surprised since they haven't really talked in 3 days, and he knows it's mostly because he's been swamped with practice. Rabin thanks him, which just confuses Moonday even more. Rabin goes on to say that it was the first time anyone had stepped in to help him in a tough situation. Moonday figures he's talking about getting shielded from blame earlier and tells him it was no big deal. Rabin shares that he was worried about being seen as a bad teammate again after the last round, and he gives Moonday credit for helping him dodge that bullet. Moonday understands the importance of keeping a low profile and realizes he'd be just as anxious. He remembers the old rumors about Rabin being disliked by his former team, and knows that if that idea sticks now, his chances of bouncing back would be shot. Rabin then notes that picking someone with strong teamwork skills was definitely the right move. Moonday looks at him, confused, and wipes his mouth. He asks Rabin if he was chosen for his teamwork over his singing talent. Rabin confirms it, explaining he noticed how Moonday kept things together during their first mission. Of course, he adds that Moonday's vocals are great too. Moonday is taken aback, realizing he's not just a backup singer, but actually a key player for his teamwork. He never thought of himself like that. It surprises him that Rabin has formed such a high opinion of him in just a few episodes. Rabin tells him to chill with the formalities. They sit together to talk about the song while the others practice aimlessly, and Moonday thinks they've got no solid ideas and can't figure out what to fix. Rabin suggests they think about the judge's original advice, though he admits he doesn't really get this whole energy of courage and passion thing. Moonday secretly agrees, thinking the advice is vague, like something an old woman would complain about. Then, Yoojun walks over to Rabin, looking a bit unsure, and apologizes for what he did earlier. Moonday observes, wondering if it's okay to accept apologies while filming, but figures it's not his call. He's puzzled by how easily Rabin forgives him. Rabin asks Yoojun if he has any ideas for rearranging the song. For Moonday, the main issue is still figuring out how to turn such an abstract emotion into a performance. Idols aren't superheroes from comic books. Suddenly, an idea hits him. He shouts, "No!" startling everyone. He pulls up his status window, lost in thought and feeling like he might have found a solution. As he sits there alone, the leader approaches and asks why Rabin is suddenly at the keyboard. Moonday explains he suggested a song concept that Rabin liked. When the leader asks for details, Moonday reveals it's about Henshin heroes. Everyone stares at him in total confusion, wanting to know more. Time passes quickly. 5 days later, it is the second team match day. A girl feels exhausted and wants to go home. After 5 hours of waiting, she is finally entering the venue. As a fan of Yeonju, she should have won an audience seat. She only applied for fun, but ended up here after being bribed. She wonders if the woman beside her is a fervent fan of some boy. She knows he isn't ugly, but he isn't extraordinarily handsome either. Suddenly, a blue-haired girl approaches the woman. The first girl finds her appearance intimidating. Having no one to root for herself, she nervously calls out Moonday's name. The woman looks at her, confused. The girl then glances at the blue-haired girl, unsure if she is annoyed. The host announces they will see whose stock blooms today. The performances begin, with every team giving their absolute best. Minso is glued to her seat, totally amazed. She had no idea idol performances could look this incredible. The vibe is way more lively and exciting than anything she's ever seen on a screen. She starts to think maybe she should have checked out idol concerts sooner instead of sticking to ballads. She's completely enchanted. The acts are super powerful and every performer is seriously good looking. As the show goes on, she remembers she needs to vote for her favorite 2 teams. For now, she's leaning towards the first group, though she's still not sure when Moonday's team will hit the stage. When the last team finally comes out, she gets a rush of excitement as she recognizes a famous baseball cheer song. She had no clue the original could have such an electric vibe or feature such tough high notes. All her confusion disappears when she hears the audience going wild for Moonday, showing just how popular he is. The team rolls in on bikes, and honestly, the visuals are jaw-dropping. Their performance is intense, with powerful high notes and quick costume changes, and every member is giving it their all. When she finally spots Moonday clearly, she's stunned, realizing her friend really isn't great at taking photos. She wishes she had some better pics of this talented and charming guy, especially since she and her friend seem to go for the same type. The crowd goes bananas when the performance wraps up, everyone screaming their names, even Raven saying the act was insane and totally the best. In that moment, Minso gets why her friend is so obsessed, especially with the main vocalist, Park Moonday. She might not know a lot about this world yet, but he's totally won her over. She's convinced they're going to take first place. They've got to be the ones. Moonday couldn't shake off the judges' harsh feedback, and it felt like his future was looking pretty bleak. Then, out of nowhere, a wild idea popped into his head. One that would fit right in with the song's original vibe. They wouldn't even have to mess with the cheerleading routine they'd practiced for ages, and it could really show the courage and passion the judge was after. The only catch? It was kinda risky. If even one member looked unsure, the internet would tear them apart, and they'd probably get criticized for their uniforms too. But as he checked out the members' stats, he started to think maybe they could pull it off. He figured he'd need to bump his skill average up to at least an A or B to score a main position. Interestingly, everyone else's charm stats were already at least a B, except for his own, which made sense why the judges hadn't slammed their concept. So he tossed the idea over to Raven, whose face lit up like a Christmas tree. Without wasting a second, Raven jumped onto his computer. The team could see from his status window that he was all in. He just needed that little spark. The leader decided to let him be, and Moonday suggested they wait, which the leader totally agreed with. Watching Raven, Moonday noticed his status window practically shouted "Golden Spoon." He started to wonder if there was a way to copy someone else's stats, like in those web novels. Instead of feeling sorry for himself, he figured he should focus on what he could do. He opened up his stats window and threw his last point into charm, bumping it up to a B. With nothing left to do but give his all, he watched the other teams kill it on stage, feeling a weird emptiness as his own team soaked in their awesome performances, knowing the result was pretty much a done deal. He got how the audience's voting worked. Since this was a team gig, most of the viewers already leaned towards a certain participant. Just because someone had a killer performance didn't mean they'd snag first place. A lot of people would probably vote for their fave team, and then maybe throw in a second vote for an underdog team, which could work in their favor. So, landing in third place would actually be a solid win. The leader was super pumped about their performance, and shared his happiness with everyone. Out of nowhere, Moonday caught a guy from a rival team, giving him a smug look. He wondered if the guy was feeling confident because he hadn't had any nasty edits done on him, or if he was just being foolish. The leader reassured them, saying their best effort would look amazing on screen, but the mood still felt heavy. Another teammate with red hair chimed in, saying that eventually everyone would see their skills. Moonday nodded, hoping they might snag some sympathy votes from the crowd. The leader suggested they head back to the dorm, but Moonday couldn't shake off the worry about how the editing team would portray them. With all the contestants building their own fan bases, even a little bad editing could totally change public opinion. He remembered how Kim's fans had defended him during the first team match, pushing a way better narrative, which was a big win. Once he got his phone back, he realized he hadn't checked it in forever. He needed to start keeping an eye on online reactions as soon as he got home. Just then, Kim approached him, thanking him for everything and asking if they could swap numbers. Moonday didn't mind getting closer. Kim was ranked high, and his skills in music production had made everything about the last arrangement easy. He thought this could be a chance to shake up his social circle. If anything went sideways with his current teammates, he could find himself in a tough spot. so for his own sake, teaming up with Kim, who had debuted in his previous life, seemed like a smart play. By making their friendship public before the next shoot, he could reshape how people viewed him pretty quickly. Plus, getting close to Kim might even help him connect with Cha, which could win him some brownie points with their fans. He knew he shouldn't overthink it, but the pressure to debut had him feeling like he needed to navigate every social connection carefully. Kim seemed pretty straightforward on calls, so Moonday promised himself he'd reach out to him this week. As he stands there alone, Sion walks over with a serious look on his face. The boy leans in and whispers something about Choi. Moonday asks what's going on, wondering if Choi is being pushy again, wanting more parts. The shy guy lets him know that Choi is honestly a bad dude. He's breathing heavy, and Moonday is confused, asking if something happened. He can't believe Choi did something to get even Sion to speak up against him. Sion explains that Choi keeps asking for more parts, throwing shade at everyone, and even had some negative things to say about Moonday in his interview. Moonday feels a wave of frustration, thinking Choi has really picked up some nasty tricks from the first person who went after him. Sion adds that Choi pretty much calls the shots, so they can't really fight back, which is why Moonday should be careful. Choi might be spreading rumors about him too. Moonday looks at Sion and realizes he thought Sion was just trying to trash talk Choi, but he's really just trying to look out for him during the survival show, like a true friend. This makes Moonday feel bad for always judging people by their rankings. Then, out of nowhere, Sejin B hugs them from behind and asks what they're talking about. Sion fills him in on the situation. Sejin suggests they just avoid being on the same team as Choi next time, saying that usually it's the one who gets stressed about it who ends up losing. He pulls out his phone and shows them an ad featuring all three of them. Sejin is pumped to see their banner ads lined up next to each other, wondering if the companies coordinated this. He knows they probably fought hard for those prime spots. He thinks about all the time and money that went into it and figures that even if he makes his debut and bounces later, he should stick to his contract. A weird sense of obligation hits him, like he owes something for this indirect investment. Noticing Moonday looking confused, Sejin grins and suggests they go check out the ads in person. He argues that since fans have left messages on them, they owe it to themselves to visit. Moonday rolls his eyes, feeling this duty could wait, but Sejin's excitement wins him over. Moonday realizes Sejin is trying to set up another hangout. Still, he thinks it'll be safer to go as a trio than solo, and the idea isn't entirely bad. Fast forward 2 days, and Moonday finds himself at the subway, reading another long text from the shy guy in their group chat. He gets off at his stop, his mask snug for a quick, low-key trip, but as he nears the banner, he stops dead. The other two are already there, swarmed by a crowd. He sighs inwardly. He got too comfortable. The show is a huge hit now. Those two idiots came without masks. People are all over them, singing their praises, and while he feels a warm glow, his main aim is to get this over with. He weaves through the crowd to Sion and asks for his phone to snap a quick pic for proof before they bolt. The crowd gets hyped as they realize a photo shoot is about to happen. Moonday snaps the first pic for the shy guy. Sejin chimes in from the back, asking for 2 shots of him. Once Sejin gets his turn, he seems puzzled, wondering if he's now the designated photographer while everyone else has fun. So, he pushes Moonday to get it moving and take some pics too. Moonday examines his banner, feeling a wave of emotions. The words are so striking. It's clear the staff put in a ton of effort. He feels like he needs to show gratitude, so he strikes a pose. The crowd goes wild, calling him cute. He panics as he sees the crowd getting bigger. He wants to give something back before they leave, but it's starting to block traffic. Taking advantage of all 3 of them being there, he points to the others. Together, they bow deeply, thanking their fans for the support and promising to work hard in the future before signaling their goodbye. Moonday can really feel how many people have his back, a feeling that's way deeper than he expected. Later, in the car, they share the pics in the group chat. Moonday looks at his own shot, seeing his completely blank face, and realizes Sejin isn't great at taking pictures. But the guy in the backseat loves it, claiming the shakiness makes it feel more real. Since they were in a crowd, they decided on a taxi. Now they're checking out the photos Moonday took of them, and they're blown away by how good they look. Moonday thinks to himself that it's no surprise. He's been doing this for Sejin smirks, promising to take a better pic next time and actually apologizes for the bad one. Moonday is taken aback by the rare apology. Sejin, who usually isn't this sentimental, is having a lot of firsts today and comments that a realistic picture isn't so bad either. Sejin is surprised by the command, but laughs, pointing out that because of the delay, they can't hit up the restaurant Sion suggested. Moonday suddenly remembers they had lunch plans together. Sejin says he knows a good spot, and once he gets there okay, puts the address into the car's GPS. Moondae realizes he's voluntarily getting closer to them, and it's a bit nerve-wracking. Minso's mind is racing with one thing, buying shares in her favorite idol, but she's totally broke this month. Just then, her phone pings with a message from her friend Yenjo. It's a picture of the three guys chilling at a restaurant, and Minso is super excited. They even visited the banner together. She quickly jumps online to find fan pics of all three, and her heart is full seeing how cute Moondae looks. She spots something in the banner photo and asks her friend if she took it. Yenjo laughs and says she was struggling earlier, but is now back to life, insisting they've got to make sure he debuts. Thrilled, Minso feels like she has to do something to help him out. She wants Moondae to blow up in popularity, which means she's set on buying his shares. She hops onto the Idol Inky's live stream to see if the second team match kicked off today. The host greets everyone and brings up their promise, saying the prediction crew will follow the audience's wishes for the show. They're now taking votes on how many members will make it, evolution songs, and more. Then he mentions they're fulfilling another promise. The host asks if there are any participants the viewers aren't vibing with or don't want to see debuting, even asking if anyone feels that way about themselves. Everyone looks confused and the chat goes wild. He tells them they can now sell their stocks without any worries, introducing a new stock liquidation system. Viewers can get rid of stocks for participants they're not into, which is called stock liquidation. Minso is freaking out. Then the host explains that instead of just buying stocks for their faves, they can now sell stocks to drag others down. The comments explode, with people thinking this is going to be a total disaster. Fan pages go crazy, warning others not to sell their faves stocks while attacking participants they don't like by selling theirs. Meanwhile, Moondae is stretching out, feeling good about his 2-star rating. He knew it would go down like this. His character always seems to get a mix of strong love and hate. As he stretches and checks online, he sees a flood of analysis posts with fans arguing. It's not just fans clashing, but also trolls diving in to stir the pot. He feels a bit bad for those getting caught up in it all. He's aware of how bad this liquidation situation can get. Even a civil service exam candidate like him knows it's a nightmare. Anyway, with his current popularity, he doesn't think he'll get kicked off, so it's not bothering him too much. He stretches more, hoping his supporters aren't too stressed by all the craziness. His main plan was to check out reactions to episode 6, not to get sucked into the chaos of liquidation overshadowing everything else. He figures he won't get much screen time this week since his team's performance is coming up next, which is leaving mostly negative comments about his connection with Raven. As he checks out the comments, he spots a user named Painful Love, who definitely isn't a real fan. And more importantly, he realizes that his teammates' fans aren't really fond of him right now. He's curious about how everyone's perceptions might change once the next episode airs. He feels confident that their performance was solid enough that even if they try some tricky editing, it won't matter too much, which makes him genuinely interested in how the public will react. In the meantime, he's focusing on checking his status notifications and achievement updates. Over in the group chat, his teammates are brainstorming an online post. Raven mentions that he and another teammate are planning to check out the fan-funded ads at Gangnam Station tomorrow and invites Moondae to come along. Moondae thinks about it and realizes there's an ad for him there too, but then he decides that showing up might just make things more complicated, so he figures it's better to spend that time building up his stamina instead. He politely declines, saying he has other things on his plate. He can't help but think that the creative stickers Raven sends really show off his artsy side. Moondae also reflects on how the fans in the Idol Inc. community have such unique and diverse tastes, especially noticing how Raven's old-school greetings seem to get fancier every time they chat. As the days roll by, it's finally time for the episode 7 broadcast. He's hoping for a good reception to wrap up the week on a high note, but when he watches it, he sees that his screen time is basically saved for the end. Still, he can't help but laugh at the opening of the video, where another contestant is just sobbing their eyes out. Moondae is watching the show, and he can't help but feel a mix of fascination and annoyance as he sees a crying contestant. Sure, it's impressive in a way, but he remembers how annoying the kid was in their past interactions. What really surprises him, though, is what happens next. After the interview, Choi strolls back to the practice room and completely ignores everyone, just walking right past them. The prediction crew is all over this, tracking every unhelpful move Choi makes. They even throw in an old clip from the first team match that shows some sneaky stuff going down back then. Next, they switch gears to the second team match, where it's clear that their meeting didn't go anywhere. Just like that, Choi's public profile takes a major hit. The comments section is filled with people cracking up at his weird behavior, and everyone is questioning how genuine he really is. Moonday's anxieties because he worries that if people start linking him to Choi, it could end badly for him too. He's stressed about possibly getting double the backlash if things take a dive later on. Luckily, the focus shifts to Sejin, who's mediating the conflict and actually making things better for their team. Their performance after that is solid, so nobody connects Moonday to the earlier mess. He figures that if there's more chatter about it later, the heat will probably stay on Choi. As he processes everything, his face, he knows Choi brought a lot of this on himself. But that doesn't stop him from feeling disgusted by how the production team is cutting the footage. It's clear Choi isn't really handling this well, and it seems like he's going to have a tough time ahead. There are only 2 teams left for the episode now, and it should be almost time for his team to shine. But with so many big-name participants in the mix, he knows not to expect too much attention. The editing is focused on the other team, showcasing how he got picked in the end. It's obvious the production crew is trying to fix Kim's image since they're showing the team getting scolded by the judges. Scanning through the live comments, Moonday realizes he was the first to get called out on screen. He lightly bangs his head in frustration, questioning if the drink he had is messing with him because he's feeling unusually angry. He used to admire the production team's skills, but now it's clear they only care about making things trend, and they're not thinking about how it affects the contestants. At the same time, one contestant keeps getting a positive edit. As expected, the narrative is shaping up to show the leader taking all the credit, which really hurts Lee, especially since Kim also played a part in the reshuffle. Watching the second half of the video whirls his anxiety into overdrive, especially when they show the part where they were told to amp up their emotions for the dance. He's horrified that this moment made the cut, feeling like everyone is being shown in such an unfair light. After putting in so much effort for the team, it really sucks to see everything twisted after that midpoint evaluation.